Well, of course you would. But how would you feel?
I would feel nothing because it's like if you came up to me and say, "Hey, y'all, I found the most precious roach in the garden. It's so beautiful. Look at this roach. It's like I love when it crawls all over my body." I would just be like, I would kill that thing on sight. Like I don't
stomp it out just the same.
Just the same. No grace. No grace. Like this is just a roach. So anyway, right. So let's talk. Let's get into some of the elements. Hey, everybody. It's your boy, Bradston, and welcome to the Super Agile Bros podcast. You already know what it is. It's about to be a great episode. I'm already hyped about this episode because I have so much to say. So I'm not going to even wax poetically today. I'm going to get into the introductions of the boys themselves, the brothers themselves. First, we have the illustrious Kyle. What's happening, Kyle? How you doing, my brother?
Illustrious. I'm doing well. Bill Cosby's coming after you, though, because of that intro. Like, cease and desist. Inbox.
True. I might need to change it to hey, so you can't see me.
Pitch shift, just a little bit.
Just a little bit. And, of course, we have the magnanimous Steve. What's happening, Steve? What's good with you, my brother?
The last one who called me a magnanimous got a bowl of ice cream as a reward.
Oh.
So why don't you go ahead and tell me your home address and I'll
and your favorite flavor.
Okay. Matter of fact, all of our fans of the show on our YouTube, please go ahead and put in your home address and we will send you ice cream. Don't put that in the chat, in the comments, please.
We will send you pudding pops, right?
Send you no, please.
It'll just be some milk by the time it gets there.
It's just cream. The ice has left the building.
Man, just melted through. We'll seal it up good. So at least the milk will stay in
so
there.
Bad.
So, okay. So we're going to start off this episode. Today, we're talking about Hold on. Yes, I got it right.
Try again.
It right. We were talking about this before the podcast. The name of this game, Star Wars TM. Star Wars TM Jedi Fallen Order. So, Star Wars.
I think there's a colon in there.
Star Wars Jedi : Star Wars TM Jedi : Fallen Order.
Right.
Yes. So we're going to be talking about this, as some of y'all know, a few months, I guess at this point. Month and a half, 2 months ago. We talked about what we were going to be covering on this show. We did a special bonanza where we talked about, stuff that we wanted to cover.
Is that what a bonanza is?
A boondoggle. No, I'm kidding.
Thingamajig.
Hackamajig of things that we wanted to cover on the podcast, and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order was one of those. So at the time of this recording, all of the brothers have completed the game, and we are going to share our opinions. But before we do that, I want to share a story with the guys because I was late to today's recording by a few minutes. And there's a very particular reason, and I want to make sure the world knows this, and hopefully it'll get to the right person. So, check this out. Me and my wife, we moved into this townhouse when we first moved to the state that we live in. And it's a relatively new one, and they put in these cool, fancy faucets, like in the kitchen, right? It's like one of those, like, it's kind of tall,
in the kitchen.
and it, like, has a swoop. I don't want to call it a swoop. What would you call that? An arc. It kind of arcs, and then you can pull the nozzle out from the neck. So it's like it's kind of
hose.
Yeah, it's like a hose.
So it's like a giraffe bending down to drink out of the sink.
Yes, and then you could pull the neck out so it can stretch. So it's like it's pretty
just like a real giraffe.
Like a real giraffe. And it's pretty cool, like as far as like design and ergonomically. But one of the annoying things about it is that it's also a sensor thing. So you can put your hand in front of it and it'll automatically start. Like right at the base of it or on the very top of the giraffe neck, like where it starts to kind of arc over and turn. And it's very, very annoying and very trash. Also, there's like a little flashing light on the front, like a little black motion sensor. So you have to assume that there's some kind of battery power to it.
It only senses black motion?
It actually does not sense black motion. I have to put a white sheet of construction paper in order for
if it senses black motion, it just makes a loud screeching noise.
If it senses black motion, it just sends the cops to my house. So
you don't need any water.
Get on the ground. get in the sink. Get in the sink. So so anyway, it clearly has some type of power to it, right? Because it has like a sensor. My assumption has been that it's just plugged into the under the sink like circuit board or whatever, or not outlet that's down there.
Do you have an under the sink outlet? Yeah.
So another great thing about the design is of the housing here, and I'm saying this very sarcastically, is that they have a switch to turn on your dishwasher. So you might accidentally turn it off, and it's just really annoying. But it's also next to the switch that is for your garbage disposal. So that's a thing that happens a lot. So
the switches aren't labeled.
Wait, sorry. So when you said a switch, I thought you meant like there's a little button under the sink somewhere that you have to use to turn off the dishwasher. But it's literally like a light switch.
It's literally a light switch.
At human level.
It's below the sink, so you can't see it. Like you have to kind of look under, and then you can see.
Are you meant to like go down and like look in there and push it, or are you meant to do it by feel, like without looking?
I think reach under there? In theory, without looking, but because it's two switches, you kind of have to look every time. And they are labeled, but the thing is, they're not like eye level, so you'd have to like just crouch and look, or like bend over. To see,
that's
like,
awful.
You know, and you don't do it very often, right? Like, you don't use your garbage.
You need some sort of
I would.
Tactile...
I run my garbage disposal all the time.
You need some sort of tactile identifier, so you put your hand in it.
You need to learn to read Braille.
One has a knife attached to it to tell me that this is for cutting and chopping stuff off. The other one is just constantly wet, so you know it's the dishwasher. I like it.
Either way, your hand's going to come up wet.
Right. One switch has like a loud musical sting, like when someone in a horror movie sticks their hand into the garbage disposal. And one switch just makes a lot of ruckus and
I have another story about us dropping something in the disposal and like me being like, I'm not putting my hand in here. I've seen too many movies. I don't care if I've disconnected the thing at the bottom. Like I unplugged it. I had to use some tongs because I was like, I'm not putting my hand there. Anyway. So, long story short is, I assumed that it was just connected to that whole system, right? Wrong. It's actually battery powered. Now, we've lived here for a year, right? A little over a year. And in the last, like, month, the light on the little sensor has been, like, randomly blinking. Just randomly, right? We're just like, okay, cool. It looks like you're messing up. But I've been like, maybe it's telling me something. But I don't know.
It was a cry for help.
And then randomly, the faucet, when you're using it, it'll just shut off. Like, it'll just shut off when you have the faucet actually open and running. It'll just turn off.
I love it.
Right? And
I love this design.
You're like, what? And then, like, maybe after you, like, close it and sit there for a second, the light will blink a few times, and then it'll go back to normal. So, more recently, it's been doing more aggressive blinks. Like, blink, 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 blink. So, I've been like, okay, something is wrong with this. And I need to deal with it. But before I could deal with it, Shailene was trying to do some stuff, my wife, and it just shut off, like hardcore shut off. Like nothing was coming out. And I'm like, this is a faucet. I don't like, it's a mechanical like object. I should turn the faucet on with the lever and water should come out. There should be no electrical thing associated to it. Anyway, long story short is, had to find the manual, had to Google a YouTube video to figure out where the batteries were hiding. They're actually not in the actual faucet. They're actually under the sink, attached to the bottom in this little like console that you have to like open and then like put the batteries in. So
I guess that's not bad.
It's not bad, but like if you have never used an electric faucet, you wouldn't think, you'd just be like, where, like I looked under the sink, but I wasn't clear to me that this was the thing that was associated to the faucet. If that makes sense. Mm-hmm. It just looked like a random thing. So anyway, right before the podcast, I was just trying to wash some dishes before we started recording, just to kind of help out and, you know, just reduce the burden of, Shailene was doing some baking. So there's a whole bunch of dishes. And long story short is, it died again after I changed the batteries yesterday. So,
oh no.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it was really annoying, and
so I had a bigger problem.
Yeah, so I had to go through, and I was like, maybe some of these new batteries that were in this pack were actually dead. So I think that was the fact. I had to like go through and test until I found, because I don't have enough batteries.
I think the alternator in your sink might be bad.
Yes.
Yeah, try running the gas a little longer.
What if somebody said my drum valve on my rear drum valve on my car was leaking? I said, sir, that makes zero sense. First of all, he was just trying to sell me something, and he was like, it'll only be $13 to fix. I was like, okay, this is clearly a scam. If this was actually a problem, it'd be like $100.
He needs $13 for something specific
to get on the bus. Can I get
$13 at a car dealership? That's like a ring pop.
What are you gonna get with that? I'm gonna call them out. It was Pep Boys. I've never gone to Pep Boys again. It was done.
Got him.
So I don't know. I don't think you're allowed to say long story short 3 times in a 5-minute story.
Dude, the story could be longer because I have more details about this situation.
You should have just made it short.
Minute and a half.
It's like long story.
This is the shorter version of a much, much longer story. Like, I got more to say. More to say. So anyway.
How long?
Did you know that I lied? Giraffes, that's not like a giraffe. Giraffes their necks don't like go up and then arch down. They just bend down like dweebs.
Yeah, they put their whole legs out
with their legs.
Yeah,
just to make them.
They have their whole leg, their whole neck
just
splayed down.
Push them over, like idiots.
Yeah,
lions.
I think they have even better balance probably when they're bent down because their legs are farther apart.
Have you ever seen giraffe fighting? Where they just swing their neck at each other?
It's like a sword fight.
It's like whipping their neck.
But the sword is also like an important organ.
Just whipping their neck at each other. Like,
it's like, oh no, one of their swords broke.
just imagine the UFC where it's just like you're just slanging your neck at each other. Like,
man, after some of the videos you sent me, I can totally imagine it.
Oh my gosh! Shout out to whatever his name is, something Adonis, whatever his stupid channel.
Russian UFC coverage.
Oh, it's such. This all should be illegal. Everything he's covering should be illegal. Like I mean,
Kingpin is involved, so obviously it's illegal.
He really is Kingpin, though. Like
the refrigerator himself. Makes Russian refrigerator noise.
Oh, yo, how they do those ring girls. So disrespectful.
The sad trombone.
All right. If I can't remember the dude's name, but it's something Adonis. He talks about MMA
Link
fights
in the description.
Russia. It's very terrible. Link in the description. I don't know. But anyway, speaking of terrible things, let's talk about Star Wars Fallen Order.
Jedi Fallen Order. Hot take.
But no, really. So let's get out the gate. What are y'all's overall review or rating review? It can have a number, no number, for Steve. For his conscience, for him to sleep well at night, you don't need a number. What would you rate Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order? And we'll start with Steve himself.
The Steve himself.
I suppose that's fair. I liked it. Yeah, I liked it. It definitely had its good moments and its bad moments. I have a list of notes. It was not as good as I had been led to believe by all the hype around it. It's weird because it feels like a game I didn't hear much about, but what I did hear was pretty positive. And so from what I heard, I was like, oh, it must be like a sleeper hit kind of game. And I can kind of see where that's coming from, but I can also kind of see why I didn't hear much about it, because it was better than I would have expected based on that, but it was worse than I expected based on that, but it was better than I would have expected if I had just gone in blind. Does that make sense?
I think so.
It's like a very medium game to me.
So it was better than your expectations, more or less.
It was better than my deep, intimate expectations, but it was worse than the hype that I heard about it.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. All right.
I'd agree.
Mr. Kyle?
I definitely know of a lot of people who enjoy this game. And yeah, all the reviews and stuff have been like, it's a really positive game. There's a sequel on the horizon, apparently. A live action adaptation of some sort is in the works. And there's been leaks as of like 2 days ago. I don't know. I don't know anything else about it. But, so yeah, really positive buzz around the game. But in general, I did not enjoy this game. I agree. It had some high moments. I'm a big fan of like Star Wars lore and the universe. So I appreciate that this story was completely, it wasn't following a story I already knew. And, telling a new story in the Star Wars universe, I think is really cool. Everything felt authentic. Like it didn't feel like some sort of cheap knockoff Star Wars game or experience. But a lot of the gameplay itself and even some of the story beats felt undercooked. And so I really just wanted the game to be better. Not so much even live up to the hype, but it's just like I've played really good games that didn't live up to their hype, but were still really solid games. I feel like it just fell short. It fallen short of what it could have been. And so I was mostly just disappointed when certain things happened, but I can't say it. It's not a game that I would have finished otherwise, but I'm glad that we played through it and I experienced it.
Okay. Did you want to give a number to it?
So I guess out of 10? Out of 10, I'd give it, because it's playable, it's completable, and it's got accessibility options for the things that are jank about it. So I give it a 6.
Okay. A solid 6. All right. Personally, I think, Jedi Fallen Order. Honestly, this is one of the worst games I've played in a really long time.
Whoa.
I honestly hated almost everything about this game. Like, I think if it wasn't for this podcast, I would have, like, if I had the CD for this, like the actual game CD, I would have thrown it out my window. Like, within the first 45 minutes. I hated this game. Like,
would you throw it at the guy with the truck outside your parking lot?
No,
at
he's
the
cool
neighbor,
people.
Yeah.
I like him. He's super cool. He just got a loud truck.
You'd ask him to run it over with his truck.
Yes, that's what I would do. I'd request that he run it over because his truck is hefty. No, really,
Good
guys.
say.
Like, I'm not even kidding when I say I hate this game. Like, it's not even like, like I've been boiling for a very long time. Like,
is it worse? Sorry to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
Continue.
No, is it worse? Go ahead. You can ask.
Is it worse than Sea of
Yes.
Thieves? Is it what?
I don't think it mattered what you were going to put next.
It doesn't matter what you say. It's worse than that. It's worse than that.
Is it worse than Borderlands 3?
Yes.
No.
Whoa.
Come on.
Yes, I will play Borderlands 3 before I play this trash game. I'm so serious, y'all. Like, and once again, this might be an opinion that other people don't feel, but I'm just speaking from my heart, like, on some real stuff. Like, I hate this game. The story was weak. The gameplay was weak. I have some positives to say. The game looked good. Outside of the random glitches in the game that took me out of the experience because it's trash, the game looked great.
Many of those.
I think the music was okay. I thought it fit the Star Wars feel. It clearly wasn't. Maybe it was John Williams, but it felt more like John Williams got paid like $20. He's like, all right, I'll put something together real quick for y'all. I'm good.
Nah, it definitely
It was
feels
William
like
Johnson.
They just hired a John Williams impersonator.
William Johnson. Hey, I got y'all, brother. Hey, what you need? What you need? I'm good. I love that Star Trek. I got you, brother. Like, honestly, yeah, honestly, man, I just hate this game. I mean, I can go into the detail, but other than the graphics, other than the music being decent, other than like it being Star Wars, I give this a solid 2 out of 10.
Ooh,
maybe
2.
2.5 out of 10.
Generous.
And I'd give it the 0.5 because of the ending, because of a particular situation. But speaking of that, if you're listening to this podcast right now, if you are listening to the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order deep dive or whatever we're going to call this, know that we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about everything.
Spoilers.
This is spoiler territory. So at this point, if you don't want this game to be spoiled, if you don't think my opinion is valid, that's fair. The other two fellas here have better things to say about it. All I will say is stop now and play the game.
Stop playing the game now.
Stop playing the game now. Stop listening now. Jump back in after you've played the game. Anywho, I personally, I don't have a positive outlook on the game, but I'm actually kind of cool to hear like there's kind of a positive side from Steve, even though it's not the best game you've ever played. You kind of kind of vibe with it a little bit. It sounds like.
Yeah, sure. What would you have done if I came out here like, man, this game's better than Hades? Like, this is my
I would say
game.
this is the worst game I've played in a long time. I would tell you the same exact thing. This is.
Well, of course you would. But how would you feel?
I would feel nothing because it's like if you came up to me and say, "Hey, y'all, I found the most precious roach in the garden. It's so beautiful. Look at this roach. It's like, I love when it crawls all over my body." I would just be like, I will kill that thing on sight. Like, I don't
stomp
care.
It out just the same.
Just the same. No grace. No grace. Like, this is just a roach to me. So anyway,
Right.
So let's get into some of the elements. You know, I love there's varied opinions here. So first, let's talk about the gameplay. Like, what was your feeling on the gameplay? What are the things you liked? What are the things you disliked? Yeah, like what did y'all take? You know, I'll let either of y'all go.
Do you want to go first? It's rare that you go first, Brad.
Me? Okay, like rare that I go first.
Yeah, we want to leave a positive impression.
Yeah, y'all can take y'all. I mean, I'm gonna set the bar low. So check this out. This is how I feel about this game.
There was no good.
I feel like this was somewhat of a Unreal Engine or Unity asset flip for the character controller. I really hated the way that he controlled. Like, that's probably what killed the game for me. Like, I never felt good running around with, what's his name? Cal?
Cal, yeah.
I felt like there was potential. Like, I could see it, right? I could see what they were going for. Like, but it never felt like they spent the time to really get it to feel tight. It felt too loose to me, gameplay wise. So a lot of battles where I felt like I knew exactly what I needed to do or exactly how to approach an enemy, it felt like I was like fighting Cal to not do a weird pirouette or something, or like randomly tilt and turn a direction. Like, I just didn't like the controls. So overall, the gameplay to me, because that to me is fundamental, I kind of struggled with it throughout the game. You know, it was.
Wait, before you continue. So you struggled with it. Hold that thought. We should probably all start. We should also probably add what level of difficulty we played at, because that probably, you know, for someone listening, that might change either how they feel about it or how, like, what difficulty they pick if they were to play it.
Okay. No, that's a good point. Good point.
So and I'll talk more about the difficulty later, but basically there is the easy version. I think it's called like Padawan or something, and then the normal version is Jedi Knight. And then the hard version, I don't remember what it is.
I think it's Master.
Something along the lines of Master.
I think it's
It's probably Master. Duh. What am I thinking? And then there was, I think, a harder version.
Yeah.
Or was it just Master?
It was. Maybe I can look it up, but yeah, there was like.
Okay, but I played at night. I played at the normal difficulty. And what did you play at, Kyle?
I also played at night.
Okay.
But there was one specific encounter where I did lower it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I played.
What about you, bro?
I started at night. I played maybe like 15. I don't know. I got to a certain point where I ran into an enemy and I said, you know what? Like, I literally was like, in order for me not to just like not complete this game, I'm going to do the thing that I've never done almost in any game ever. And I moved it down to the easiest difficulty so I could get through it. So I played a good portion of the game, maybe 35 to 40% of it at normal. And then I just couldn't take it anymore. And I just...
So anyone listening to Brad complain about the controller, just be aware that it's not because he was playing on the hardest difficulty or that, you know, whatever was ramped up or anything. It was literally just the movement.
The normal game.
Yeah, thank you for making the point that even on easy, it feels terrible. Yeah, honestly, I just think, like, just from a gameplay perspective, I think that traversal was a little wonky to me. It didn't always feel great. I didn't like how he moved when he jumped. I didn't like his running wasn't terrible. Encounters just always felt like a little off to me. I never felt like I got the vibe. Even on easy, like, it just felt like at that point, it just was like, I'm just going to mash the button because clearly, even though like I want to just style on them, like it just seemed like I actually got more damage when I actually tried. So I just wailed and they just died. Yeah, I just personally just didn't enjoy the gameplay. I can talk about it in more detail when we talk more about, certain moments in the game. But yeah, I just didn't personally. I feel like that. I think the game. I mean, the story I didn't like either. But like, I really was disappointed by the gameplay. Just to be, the story is like,
Cool.
I'll take that. I take that L. But the gameplay just killed my spirit.
Yeah, I agree with the looseness.
Go ahead, Kyle.
You can go ahead, Steve.
Very well. I will go ahead. So let me just hit the same beats that Brad did. I did not terribly mind the movement. There were definitely some issues I had, but it was like specific issues with just movement in general. So again, similar to God of War, he climbs. There's a lot of climbing in this game. It's more of like a parkour.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's traversal, and there's a lot of climbing on walls, and for some reason they made the decision that when you, I guess, I don't know, maybe there was some like really awful gameplay situation that would happen if they didn't do this, but it felt like a dumb decision. If you approach a wall that you can climb, or like if you jump onto it or something, you have to push a button within some amount of time of grabbing the wall, or he'll just let go.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll grab the wall, he'll like stick to the wall, and then he will let go if you don't push the climb button. Which threw me off a lot. I thought I had to hold it down the whole time. You just have to push it. Anyway, and it also bothered me that you get the ability to climb really quickly, like pretty much scamper up and down the walls and stuff. But you get it really close to the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, what use was this? After I've been climbing all over the place. So, yeah, there was a few things. I know one time I was trying to climb like a... Okay, all right, let me start.
Can I say something real quick? Because I love that you mentioned the climbing, because I forgot about that. Yeah, I think that to me that was a very odd game design decision. Like, I kind of get it. Like, they're trying to give you a little bit more like agency, right? Like, you're grabbing it, like you're in control. But for Cal being this character who essentially, when you are introduced to him at the beginning of the game, he's basically like, I don't know, George of the Jungle in Star Wars world.
He's a very proficient, like, traversal artist.
Yeah, like he's very good at it, and they make that really clear in the beginning. It kind of just felt like, okay, like I get it now. Like, and I'm 80% into the game. It's not fun anymore for me to have to remember to click this button, and it didn't add anything. It just kind of felt. I wish there was just an ability to turn on like auto grab or something.
There is.
What?
You can turn off, along with other accessibility stuff that I was going to mention after. You can turn that off. So there is an auto grab that you have to turn on. Actually,
did you use it?
Oh, from the beginning.
Oh, dude,
from the very beginning.
Did it ever hamper you in any way that you were auto grabbing?
No, it was great. It felt like any other game with parkour.
My goodness.
Oh my goodness!
When I turned it on. I immediately thought, why isn't this the default?
Yeah, I would assume that they would tell you, like, oh, like, turn on, like, just like a little hint, like, turn on auto grab or something.
I never look in accessibility because I don't have any particular need for it. Mm-hmm. But, man, I guess I got to start pouring through every little setting now.
I'll tell you, the game that pushed me over the edge when it came to accessibility options was actually the most recent Spider-Man. And it was because there are tons of quick time events where you have to tap. And this game has those too. And so the first time I did one of those encounters is when I actually went to the accessibility settings. And I went to turn that off and saw that there was also an auto grab.
Really? I didn't know that was something that was added to modern games. Yeah.
Yeah, I turn that off in every game I play. I don't find that mechanic to be fun in any capacity, ever.
I could see that. Fair enough.
I don't mind it. It's just whatever they do for me. I guess I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. So, all right, anyway. I know there was one point. Oh, all right, so this is one thing. Like I said, there's a lot of traversal. There's a lot of running and jumping and climbing and stuff. One thing I absolutely hate is that a lot of his transition, he has a lot of transition animations, and a lot of them are really slow.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I feel like I'm being so, if there's a chest high ledge or maybe a head high ledge that he can jump. Sometimes if you time it perfectly, he can just jump up on the ledge.
Yeah,
because your jump is somewhat high. It's not great, but if you don't time it perfectly, he'll still mantle up on the ledge. Like he'll grab the edge and he'll climb up, but it's so slow, and I feel like I'm being like punished, for not getting the perfect jump, and it's not satisfying to get the perfect jump. It's just dissatisfying to not get the perfect jump. Yeah. And a lot of the gaps and ledges I have to jump on, you really have to get like a perfect jump to avoid having to mantle. So once you get a double jump, I found myself double jumping pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I just want to move, So that really bothered me. But I was trying to mantle up onto a ledge to follow a flying enemy that I was locked onto, and I couldn't, because when you're locked onto the enemy, you have a special jump. You don't just do your normal jump. You do like a flip, like a Legend of Zelda style, like lock-on jump. Yeah. You flip or something. You couldn't flip up onto the ledge. So I had to unlock from the enemy, jump, and then mantle, and then lock on the enemy again. And by then the enemy had flown back down to the lower portion. I was like, I hate this.
Got him.
And on the same note, if you're not locked onto an enemy, God bless you if you try to dodge an attack by jumping, because he just does his normal, like, clumsy, slow, half-height jump. And it doesn't go anywhere. Like his airspeed is much higher if you play Smash Bros. Or any fighting game. His airspeed is a lot higher when you're locked on and jumping than if you are just normal jumping.
I rarely use the lock.
At least it feels like it. So that was weird. There was a lot of weird stuff like that. But I do want to say, I feel like I had a vision. I see the vision, right? I liked a lot of things. I like that there's a move you can get where if you're running at somebody or just running and you swing your lightsaber, he does like a dash attack. You do have to unlock that, but that's a nice touch. A lot of the inverse kinematics were like spot on. The fact that you can block either a physical attack or a range attack from any direction just by holding the button, even if you're not looking, and he'll just swing his sword behind him and catch a laser beam. That's pretty cool. They did a good job there.
Yeah.
I mean, and I will say that I think the gameplay loop they were going for was perfect. Running around these big environments, lots of verticality, solving some light puzzles with force powers, fighting enemies, fighting monsters, deflecting lasers, blocking and attack. Like, I think it was all great. I just feel like there were just lots of weird little hitches that made it not fun.
Yeah, the recipe was super tight.
Yeah. So, like, with blocking laser beams, basically you would have enemies, either stormtroopers or, like, Night Brothers, or maybe a few others, that would only shoot lasers from afar. They wouldn't ever approach you. And they didn't do anything. It just felt like I had to, like, get space from the melee enemies who were approaching me long enough to reflect some beams, and the other guys would just die automatically because he automatically, if you time it right, he automatically reflects the beams back at them, and they die 1 or 2 or 3 hits. And then I could just take on the melee enemies as if nothing was wrong. Sometimes the ranged enemies would have like a unblockable like super laser.
Yeah.
Or sometimes what would happen? Or sometimes the stormtroopers would have like a Gatling gun, and you had to be careful because if you just blocked all the beams and you were blocking someone hitting you, then you would lose. Your block would run out. So that added some depth. But it felt like for the most part, ranged enemies were just a joke. I don't know how many times I heard a stormtrooper be like, "Our ranged units are down." And like, yeah,
yes.
And you're next. But yeah, there was some really good juice in there. It just felt like they made a lot of weird issues with combat. I felt like he was really slow. I hated that. I felt like I could get staggered really easily.
So we'll come back around to combat because I want to take some time to like specifically talk about combat. Cool. So Kyle, like, what's your general vibe on the gameplay as a whole?
Yeah. So I think I'm more close to what you were saying, Brad. I guess I disliked more of it than I liked, but I also agree with you, Steve, that the recipe was for what they went for. If the game had just stood a little bit more time in the oven, they tightened some things, maybe did some more testing. I don't know what it would have taken, but just to get things tight, because Cal he was unwieldy. It felt like he was on skates half the time. His jump was super weird. Like all of his physics, really. It's like he was one with the Force in the worst way, because he was.
What does that mean?
He would just get blown by the wind. It felt like sometimes, and other times, so other times I couldn't get enough momentum, no matter what I tried to do. It just felt like I couldn't make certain jumps because it was like, as soon as I hit the jump button, I lost all my momentum for some reason, and then had to try the jump again, or I would fall into a pit or wouldn't reach. Mostly when I was doing the swinging puzzles, I would feel that way. Ugh. But anyway. So when the double jump came in, I was spamming it. No matter, like, it could be a knee high ledge, I was double jumping because I didn't trust the game. It never elicited trust. And then like the sliding puzzles were really awkward with the physics. Oh, man. And on the high level, I felt combat and felt undercooked as well, because at the beginning I understood, like, okay, he's been working as a mechanic, so obviously he's not going to be a proficient lightsaber dueler from the beginning. But it's like, as you're going through the story, you're unlocking skills. There's nothing that makes you really feel like you're getting faster, if that makes sense. When you get the double-sided lightsaber, that one definitely does feel like those two feel differently. But it's still like the dynamic of just holding the single lightsaber never felt great, even in any combat situation. Even though it was more powerful, you would unlock getting stronger. And so, in general, the combat or the overall gameplay, like it just, a lot of it just kind of fell short, and it felt like it was tripping over itself. And to the lock on point you made earlier, Steve, I never used the lock on because the camera was it did not like lock on.
It would just do stuff, man. It would just do stuff.
It would just point around if the enemy I was looking at like moved in some weird way or was rearing up to get an attack while I was trying to run out of his line of sight, and I ran under a weird rock or something, or ran too close to a wall, I'd lose all visual and I'd get hit like every single time. So I was like, you know what? I'd rather just use his weird jank half jump if I'm gonna jump.
Just get away.
Man, I couldn't survive without the lock on. Like, I could never hit an enemy. They would be out of my range. And it just felt like it was impossible to get to them quick enough to hit them. It felt like I couldn't see. I mean, the lock-on didn't help too much, I guess, in this case. But like, if I wanted to run away, I would lose them. Yeah. Like, the camera would turn around behind me and they would be out of my view.
So hold to that thought for a second, because I just want to say one thing, and then let's talk a little bit more about the combat. Like, what you were talking about, I think you both kind of mentioned this idea of like, the animations felt slow, and then also like certain things just didn't, like, the thing I disliked the most was the feeling, when you had to do the wall runs, just, I never felt like I ever got exactly how I needed to start it. Like, it felt like I didn't have to jump to do it sometimes. Like, it would just kind of like suck me onto it. But sometimes if I didn't jump, I would just, oddly like just miss it. Or if I jumped at the wrong height or angle, it's like it would like suck me on there and like kill my momentum, or like, it was just,
that's really interesting. Yeah. I never had any issues with the wall. I actually liked the wall running.
I hated it so much. It was
I had a very specific issue with the wall running, because for me it was just inconsistent for a similar reason. Like, I would miss the jumps, I guess. And so there's a puzzle where you're walking through the side of the mountain, and they have these big, like, train-shaped objects that are jutting in and out of the mountain. Pistons, and you have to slow them.
Yeah.
Remember that part?
Yeah.
And so you go like 4 deep, and on the 4th one, it's just enclosed. And I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do? And then after some time, I noticed that there's rivets on the wall, but they're not red. They were gray. And so I was like, maybe I need a wall run on those. Because, up until this point, the game had been really intentional about, okay, when you run across the rivets, they're going to be this color. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. I jumped at it twice, died twice, and was like, okay, obviously that's not what I need to do. because it never brought me into the wall run animation. And, you only have like 10 feet or in that little, it's because it's like in the corner. And because that thing is moving back and forth, you have to space it. And so I spent probably a solid 15 minutes running back and forth and then running around the level trying to see like, oh, I'm not supposed to pass this point yet. Only to come back around, try to wall run one more time, and it just randomly wall run me all the way up it on my first try the second time. I'm like, bro.
It's interesting because one thing that I did like about the game, kind of is what helped to communicate what I could and could not do in certain moments, was like if you go to the map and it showed you like though the colors were a little bit too similar, so it kind of messed with my head. Like there was like an orange and a red, and it's like
they were very similar.
I can only imagine if you have color deficiency how terrible that is.
Oh man.
But in principle, I like the way that they did it because it gave you an idea of the different places you could go once you entered a certain area. Because at first I didn't recognize that, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, I know I can go left, I can go right, I can go this way. And in some scenarios, I would have the one that looked like a wall run. And kind of like you were mentioning, Kyle, it would indicate to me on the map, I can wall run this way. I'd go over there, and that kind of indicator might go away. I wasn't really sure what would make it go away, like the orange thing on the map.
Yeah. So, and you might have been finish your story. I'll point out later. Yeah,
so I'd get to it, and then for some reason it would do a similar thing that you're describing, Kyle. Like for some reason, even though it was obviously a wall run, it just wouldn't work. I was like, what is going on? And then I'd be like, I'm just not dealing with this. I get frustrated, and I come back and it would work the first time, no problem. And I was like, I don't really know what I was doing differently, but maybe it was just my angle of approach was a little different or something. But what were you saying, Steve?
I was going to ask you on the map when you said, oh, this looks like a place I can wall run. I don't remember there being a symbol for walls to run
so
on.
Essentially, and this is kind of where they should have given a legend, but I figured this out after a point. If the little orange like thing looked a certain way, like if it was like a really tall, if it was like a vertical slit that was kind of didn't have much width, it was like climbable, meaning you could climb up. If it was like a long, like more width wise, it was long, it represented a wall jump, a wall run. And then and maybe that wasn't actually what they're trying to do, but it just kind of worked out every time. That's like, oh, that's a wall run, and it would be a wall run. Oh, that's a climb up. So I don't know if that was like just bad design or just happened to work out that way.
I thought so. I think they were highlighting either specific things to interact with, like a climbing wall that you climb up, which is probably why it was vertical. But I think if there wasn't a specific thing, but they just wanted you to go down a specific path, it would just be a rectangle that kind of like basically an invisible wall between, what they've designated as the room you're in and the next area. I think that's what you might have been looking at. I don't remember there being something for walls, but maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention. Maybe.
Yeah, I think maybe it was just the case that like the only time I looked at the map was when I was like, I'm not sure where to go anymore. And I guess that just corresponded with, it's like a wall run that I was unfamiliar with. And it just happened to, like I said, I don't know if it's intentional, but
I wouldn't be surprised if it was. Because, later in the game, they highlight the vines that are hanging from the...
They'll highlight,
So I wouldn't be surprised if they highlighted those, too. Yeah. I don't remember them either, but...
I think they would highlight, like, the fans. If you had to, like, slow a fan down and go between the blades, it would show the fan on the map.
Yeah, anything that kind of led you to another path would highlight.
Right.
So that...
Which is interesting, because if for anyone who hasn't played this game, this is kind of a Metroid style or maybe a Dark Souls style world where, like, you have a bunch of areas that are very wide and winding. You can go find your own way through them. And so having and the map was 3D, just like Metroid Prime and like Borderlands 3, which I think it was better than Borderlands' map. But yes, the map was helpful. It was like, hey, if you lost, just look at the map. Look for green areas or yellow areas or orange areas, and you'll be good.
So I want to mention something. I wrote this down. I wrote down so many notes. I should send it to y'all. I'm not going to be able to cover all of them because there's so many. But
same.
There's a moment where I said they will have these in-game quips that are supposed to help you on pathfinding, but they're so nondescript and unclear. I have no idea what they're referencing. And so I don't know if you guys encountered this. It sounds like you did, Kyle. Where you walk into some space and then he go, what's that? His robot Beepo? Beepo?
He called BB.
This man said Beepo.
Beepo.
BD.
BD. He'd be like, oh yeah, BD, it looks like we're supposed to go that way. And I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah, my camera was watching his face and I was like, I don't know what you were looking at. But...
And you never get that again. I know they added like the hint system in, which came in later.
It's also terrible.
Which was horrible.
But it's only for puzzles. Yeah. It's not for...
Yes, I wasn't sure.
I never used the hints. I should have used them.
They were not.
They're terrible.
They're not great. They just literally just say, oh, so we're supposed to do the thing over there, huh, BD? Like, literally. Like, you're
sometimes.
And you're like, what?
The ones I used them on, I was genuinely stuck, and the comments didn't help at all.
Yeah, yeah. One time it said, oh, I think we're supposed to put those two together, BD. And I was like, excuse me? Like, what are you talking about? And it was like, had really, to me, it was just like, push the thing this direction. I was like, what? Like, put the things, it was just terrible. But yeah, I felt like the quips sometimes actually confused me. Like, I might just be moving through a space, enter into a space. He'd say a quip, and then I go, wait, what? Like, was I supposed to pay attention to that? Like, and I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how many times I just got plain just lost. Like, I had no clue where I was supposed to go. And the stupid map wasn't helping me. Like, it was just, I'm just wandering around until something happens. Like, I just keep going past, and then nope. That particularly where I had the most issue was on Bogano. What was the not Bogano? Where's the home? Zepho. I think the Zepho.
Zepho. Yeah.
And then like you do the Zepho temple, you come out, and then it opens up a lot of different areas, and that's where you encounter those elevators and that like underground cavern, which wasn't super important at the moment.
No.
But I think you just had to go through it to go somewhere else.
Yeah. But to get back to the ship, you're supposed to use it. But it's not clear at all.
Yeah, it's not clear what you're supposed to do. So I'm just like going down these paths and like doing stuff, and I'm like running around for like an hour, and I'm like, what is happening right now? Like, what am I doing? You know?
I got stuck there for a solid hour afterwards too.
Same.
I won't even pretend.
That's really interesting. The Zepho homeworld is the only place that I actually like. Well, it was the first place that I had to like sit down and be like, all right, let me look at my map. Let me figure out where I am, figure out how to get there. But other than that, I pretty much just always ran forward or just followed the direction, and it would occasionally look at my map to see like what the next what was available to me. The Zepho homeworld and the stinking Dothamir, those were very labyrinthine worlds. But other than that, I feel like I never got lost or had anything to worry about.
So after I understood, because I think that was my trial with the map.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, same.
So after I understood how to get back based on figuring out the map, I had no more issues because I could read the map like the back of my hand after that. Because when I tell you that I was lost, bro.
Yeah.
I was beyond. Like, I was desperate.
Like,
it was horrible.
Please, and I almost feel like looking on the internet to say like where to go wouldn't necessarily be super helpful because of just how they do things. And I didn't end up doing it.
Yeah, what are they going to tell you? Like, go to the place with the stump.
Yeah, with two stumps and the weird looking rat dude who comes out the ground. Like, thank you.
If you get shot, you went too far.
Yeah, I think I was lost as you, Kyle. It had to be an hour and a half of wandering around Zepho until I like stumbled in the right way. Because what ended up happening is I went there and then I found a space where I think I needed double jump. Like I had to like wall run and then double jump to another wall run, which I hadn't got that force power yet. And I realized, wait a second, I'm not supposed to be here. And I was like, I need to get out of here. And then like I kind of backtracked until I figured out, oh, this is how I get out. And then, but it wasn't until that moment that it clicked. But like you, I became very good and adept at reading the map after that.
You know what jacked me up with Zepho was the sequence after you finish the temple, how when the wind is blowing up from the vents. I followed the vents, and that's what got me lost. Because I followed them all the way to this open area, and then it brought me up to the ledge. I think it's what you're talking about, where the double jump. And then there's this chest up there, but then it just leads you out to another ledge that drops you on that frozen slide that you took when you first went down there. But you're supposed to, and so I thought, there's no reason I need to go on the slide. So I thought I was supposed to jump across it and then go left back to the town and then backtrack. But no, that path gets blocked because you jumped off of a windmill that you can't jump back onto because it's too far.
I understand everything you're saying, and also everything you're saying makes no sense. It's like incredible.
Right.
So I want to ask y'all about this. How did y'all feel about these when you get to a place where like they give you options? Like you can go left, you can go up, you can go right, you can go down. And then one of those paths seems to be a path where you can't come back, like a slide. Like, how did y'all handle those? Because those messed with me the most. Because I remember there was a circumstance where I ran into I had like 3 options, and 2 of the options had a slide on it.
Oh,
but
no.
It was unclear which one of these was like alternate path,
the correct path,
or like story path. And I wanted to go alternate path so I could continue exploring, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was going to say one thing that I would say I liked about the game, like, was exploring a little bit and like encountering things. I just wish I enjoyed the game. But so how did y'all ever run into that? And if you did, what did you end up doing?
I think I did run into that. But I don't think I ever ran into it where like both slides or
like
the thing I ran into the most was when there would be like clearly there's 2 paths, and not necessarily that one looks like it's permanent like a slide, but one looks like, okay, this is clearly the way that like anybody would go, and this is the way that only video game chads would go. So let me go the video game chat route first and get whatever super secret, special, awesome secret there is there, and then I'll go the normal person's
exactly
route.
Yes.
But it was always backwards.
Yes.
It was always the normal person's route had the little pickup, and the super secret path was where you were supposed to go.
Yeah, because in most games, you know that the main path is the path where maybe an enemy is waiting. Or,
it should be obvious.
Or it's like, oh, this direction. So you're like, oh, I'm clearly not going that way. That's going to progress the story, and I'm not going to be able to come back this way.
Right.
You know,
Exactly. It happened to me so many times. I would realize like, oh, this is like leaving the room. And I would just go back to the fork and get whatever thing was in the main obvious path. And then I would continue.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I went backwards through those like weird crevice animations where he's like sliding in between the walls just because, thinking that was the secret path. Then that was the main path.
Yeah, I always thought that, well, we should have known that crevices were not ever going to be secret paths, because we know that they're loading techniques that are the designers to slow you down. So we should have known like this is progressing.
True. Well, I don't know about that because this is how I was going to ask y'all about the elevators or the like they were unnecessarily long, and sometimes you didn't have to take an elevator per se. Like there was another alternate path that was a little bit faster, and I'm like, I don't know why I have to take this super long elevator for me to be in a place that like literally if I took a slide I'd get there in like 2 seconds. It was very strange.
Yeah, the underground definitely. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, right? The slide also gives them time to load stuff,
and that makes sense.
And I will say, as somebody who played on a PlayStation 4 and then got a PlayStation 5 and continued my game, the elevator rides were much faster.
Oh, really? Oh no.
Yes, especially the one in
I can't imagine them being any longer.
the one at Kashyyyk. Mm-hmm. So you can either, the first time you go through this area, you go on foot and you're like jumping around and you're supposed to meet the rebels on the other side of this like little obstacle course basically. And then like you go on your adventure and you take not an elevator, but kind of like a tram. You take it back. So the tram you can go through the tram or you can go on foot. The tram took forever, but in Kashyyyk, on that tram, when I got the PlayStation 5, the tram took like 4 or 5 seconds. And I'm like, that was absolutely a loading tram.
Mm-hmm.
They were counting on me either being in this tram and being chill in a room for a while or going on foot through this obstacle course for them to load the next room. So that's 100% what that was.
Yeah, I could feel that. I mean, naturally, I felt like that's what it was doing, but it also felt like they were clearly doing it well enough that they didn't have to do it that long and felt so bad.
It was cushion.
Yeah, it just felt bad. So I want to talk a little bit about Beepo or BD.
Hold on, before you go to Beepo, I also just want to say, pro for the game. You know, it's annoying that you have to like go through these crevices and like, you know, just waste time basically. But props for all of the intricate animations and like details in those little crevices. Usually it's just like walls and stuff, but sometimes you'd be in a building and you'd be going like under pipes and like beams and, you know, there's like steam and stuff. And he doesn't just shuffle with, you know, his hands on the walls, making himself as thin as he would like shuffle and he would climb over stuff and he would like vault and go through things. There was one point where I dropped like into a sub level in the wall. And I was like, wow, they use this not just to slow me down, but to actually basically as an elevator, you know?
No, I could see that.
It was they did a good job. It's annoying, but
I
they did
honestly feel like they spent more time doing that. Like, no joke. I agree with you. I was like, oh, this is really cool. It shows a lot of the, what do you call it? There's a word for it. Animation. There's a certain type of animation that's it's procedural animations. How far it's gone. Like it's looked really great, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. It felt almost like a tech demo watching it. But then I'd step outside, and then I'd get into a soft lock situation with Beepo. So I want to talk about Beepo for a second. BD1. So Beepo, check this out. So there's this situation. So first of all, I feel like it's a mandatory, obligatory Star Wars thing, where if you don't have a little beepy pal,
cute little droid,
then it's not a Star Wars game.
Not a Star Wars.
Everyone understands the droid except the audience.
Exactly. No, there's one time in the game, in the narrative, where Beepo said something, and then somebody's like, hey, I don't know what he just said.
That's true. Yeah, not everybody, but like all the main characters usually understand that.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny that somebody's like, hey, bro.
Like, thank you.
I don't understand what Beepo said. You go have to translate for me. But like, you know, Beepo's like your friend. He's like supposed to guide you and show you things. And he has your health stems and like, he's like how you hack things. So I mean, overall, I didn't have an issue with him. I thought it was like a perfect like narrative conceit for
the plot device.
Yeah, it was like pretty good. I thought he was pretty cute. I thought he was cool. But me and Beepo I had so many frustrations with him sometimes. So there was like two circumstances. Let me know what y'all's experience was and how you felt about Beepo. But there's two circumstances. One, there was a time where I was fighting a Jedi trooper or something, and it was near one of those S-Comp Link consoles. And one of my favorite pastimes, and I didn't do this on purpose, was just force pushing people off of things to death. Like, especially like the really like the black enemies,
the big black droids,
like the black like jet
the guys with the big sticks. They had the electric stuff,
and they were like,
the purge troopers.
Oh, let me show you how to fight, and then I would just force push them off the edge.
And the fight's immediately over. Really that was always satisfying.
I love doing that. But I was just fighting a normal, like, kind of like trooper with one of those wands. And I guess I hit him off the edge and he fell, but he didn't die. And he was like below me on some level. Well, guess what? I found out. BD will not interact with the console if there's an enemy anywhere nearby.
If you're in combat.
So even though he was like far enough where like I wasn't directly being engaged with him, BD would not do anything.
Yep.
And it took me like 5 minutes of like moving around a little bit, and then eventually I guess the stormtrooper guy kind of like maybe glitched into the environment or something that BD would interact with the S-Comp thing. So that was like a little annoying. And then there was once, you know how BD would give you hints on like, hey, we should go this way, buddy. So 90% of the game, that was completely useless. There was this moment where BD literally disappeared. Like, I don't know what happened to him. He was not on my shoulder. He wasn't standing near anything trying to get me to interact.
Oh, gosh.
And I was like, BD? Like, I was literally like, and I was doing stuff to kind of try.
You lost your friend.
I was trying to call him through like the little buttons, the D-pad. And it was like nothing worked. And I was like, yo, did I just like break the game? Then all of a sudden, I'm walking somewhere and I come to a place where I need to do some like jumps. BD comes out of nowhere. Like, it's like he teleports in like, I'm here. And then he runs in front of me. And then he, in my line of sight, walks directly over to the edge. And then he like does some kind of action to show me where I needed to go. Like,
what?
It was super weird. I was like,
I never saw that happen.
I was like, this is 3/4 into the game. I was like, I've played this game for like X amount of hours. And this is the first time BD has shown me where I'm supposed to go and what I'm supposed to do. And it was after a weird glitch where he disappeared. It was so strange.
Maybe he was getting an update.
He just left.
I'll be right back.
Like, hold on. I got some DLC to download. I'll be right back.
That premium content.
I did have issues with BD1 in a similar way of him running off, because if you just walk past either like something drawn on a wall or a weird plant that he wants to scan, but if you're moving your camera, like you can't see him jump off of your shoulder through the motion blur. And so yeah, there'd be tons of times.
Off, by the way.
Yeah, I forgot.
This man found all the accessibility settings.
I did, except for that. I was blind. I felt like the game would look worse without the motion blur. But.
Yeah, I left it on.
So yeah, he would just run off, and I'd be in a fight or something, or somebody would come up, and I'd ask for a stem, and he wouldn't be there. And I don't know how many times my stem animation got canceled from just me walking. Like, that was probably the most frustrating thing about BD, because you have to, like, I understand why they put it in there for balance, you know, like you got to really pick and choose the times you want a stem, but for him to be like, hey, BD, and then he got to throw it, and then you have to catch it, and then he has to, it's like a good 5-second feeling animation, and you rarely have enough time for that.
So that's actually one thing I don't like, and we talked about combat kind of. The first ability you get is slow. And so what do you think slow is, dear listeners? Do you think it's a way to immobilize your opponent so that you can get a quick volley of attacks in? You'd be wrong.
Type your answer
because
now.
as soon as the first hit you land,
they go right back to
slow disappears.
Yep.
So I learned this the hard way over the course of multiple hours of gameplay, where like somebody would be mid-attack and I would slow them and I'd be like, oh, I got you now. And I would run up and start hitting them and they would hit me with this huge, powerful attack that
immediately
been in the middle of doing. And I was like, excuse me. And I realized eventually, like, oh, it didn't end early. Well, it did, but it didn't end naturally. It ended because I hit the person.
Yeah. So
anyway, it seems like they purposefully built slow, not for combos, and not to take advantage of people.
To heal?
But just to heal.
Hilarious.
Oh, you're right.
That's the hint they give you. They're like, oh, you should try using slow to heal if you can't get any space.
Really?
What they don't tell you is that's the only useful way to use slow.
It doesn't work on bosses very well, though.
Right.
Wait. So they said that to you in game?
Yeah.
No, it's one of the death screen hints.
Really? I never...
Well, they tutorialize it when you're running through the train.
Really?
I don't remember.
It's like it's because you get shot or something, but they tell you to no. When is it? But no, they do it in game when you're fighting stormtroopers. They say to heal them so you can make space. Maybe they don't specifically say heal, but they at least say make space.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. I guess playing on easy, I didn't die as much, so maybe I didn't see those kind of hints.
I died quite a lot.
So
also, can I talk? Speaking of loading things, this is ugh, this bothers me so much. So when you die, when you die in this game, it shows a big black screen. It's like you died, game over, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows push X to continue.
Mm-hmm.
And you push X, and maybe like a hint will pop up, and you can scroll through the hints, and you can see the little loading icon in the corner, and eventually it loads you back in. Now, if you're like me and you're on a PlayStation 4, that's like a 30-second, sometimes like loading screen, like 40 seconds every time you die, which is miserable. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking like, well, that's cool. I can like walk away and get a drink or something and come back and then push X, and then it'll be loaded by the time I get back.
Yeah.
No. They do not load the game until you push X to say, yes, I know I died. Please let me play again.
Oh, it's the opposite.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. I don't know why they decided that screen flow for the, like, it's just really stupid. It doesn't really make much sense.
Yeah, so you have to push X, and then it'll load the 40-second load time.
Yeah, so
I didn't understand what was happening. Because I did notice that it felt delayed, but I didn't know why. That makes a whole lot of sense.
It was awful.
That's horrible.
Maybe it's such an easy thing. Just load it while you're telling me I'm dead. If I decide not to keep playing, okay, like that's fine.
Still gonna need to get into the game.
So this reminds me of something that kind of, I don't know if you guys ever experienced this. There are like, you know when you jump off an edge, and then like particularly the ropes and the vines, man, the air controls were so terrible, and they were like a little finicky on exactly when you'd grab it. That's why once I got force pulled them vines like every time.
I do love that you can force pull in the air and catch a vine in the air.
That was the first time I knew. The first time I was like, oh, this ability actually makes me feel like I'm better. Like, yeah, it was pretty cool. So I got pretty used to the idea of like, if I miss a jump, that I would have to just I'd be reloaded back at that spot, right? So, You know that scene, I don't know how many times y'all missed this jump, where you're like, that weird bat thing comes out of nowhere, and like you have to jump on its head or whatever.
Land on its back.
Its back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I could not.
You're like falling.
I could not get that window
at
right.
At least 5 times.
Yeah, I would die over and over on each of the transitions. Then later, I don't know if it was before this moment or after, there was a moment where there was a jump. I can't really recall exactly what it was, but it was an insta-death jump. If you missed the jump, you died. But it didn't.
Really?
Yeah, I can't remember. I don't know if I wrote it down, but it was.
I don't remember that one.
It was just out of nowhere, like, because it's probably not a jump that many people miss. I just happened to kind of like.
I mean, it's not hard to miss one of those weird jumps.
Yeah, it wasn't a hard jump, because when I did it the next time, I got it easily. It was just that particular random jump was an insta-death screen load in. And I was like, what? Like, you can't do that to me. You can't train me.
It must have been in like the middle of like a boss fight or something. Well, no, because even with the giant bat, if you missed it, it would just...
remember.
It would immediately load in, because they knew that people were going to miss that thing.
Over and over.
I only missed it once, I'm really proud to say.
I missed that thing like 20 times. Every time we had to do it, I missed it 20 times.
I would just aim for like his whole back. I wasn't aiming for his head.
Yeah, I can't.
I was just aiming for the giant bat, but I would just miss it.
It's just like I couldn't get the air controls. Exactly right.
It didn't feel good.
It was you fell. I mean, this is probably how it would actually feel to be falling and trying to land on something. It's coming too fast. I missed my chance.
And game over. At least they didn't game over you on that. That would have been
at least
a whole nother. And there was a time where I jumped off something and I had low health. I think it was early in the game or something. I had lower health. I jumped off it. I missed the jump. It respawned me, and I had more health than when I jumped off previously.
Oh.
And I was like...
They didn't want to game over you on a jump? That's interesting.
Yeah, I was like...
Yeah, I figured they would just kill you.
I wasn't
dead.
That's
the way to kind of gimp the game.
I didn't die. I wasn't close to death. I just had like half health, and then I jumped off, and I was at 95% health all of a sudden.
And that's really weird.
And I was like, oh. And it never happened again.
You must have fallen into a force bubble or something.
It never happened again. So let's talk a
pile of stems.
So let's talk a little bit about the combat, and maybe some other stuff will pop up about traversal and other things. So let's talk combat. So Steve, cool. You had some thoughts about combat. What were you thinking?
Yeah. So I already mentioned the slow the fact that slow doesn't work the way I would want it. Like, it's not as useful in the way I would want to use it. That's fine. It felt like, I wrote this down. I said, it feels like I'm always getting staggered. Like if I bounce off an enemy's block, or if I get hit by something a little heavy, I like fly off like a rag doll.
Yes.
But it's so hard to stagger enemies. Like they'll be in the middle of a big move, and I'm like, I got you, and I hit you, and they still hit me with the move after. I'm like, what was the point? In retrospect, I think that if I hit them with like my triangle move, which is like a big overhead swing, it would interrupt the enemies. And I'm like, okay, that's fair. But that move was also really easy to interrupt. So I got really annoyed with it. Also, the triangle move uses force, which I didn't know until much later in the game. I'm like, why am I always out of force? Why can't I use this move and I'm getting walloped?
I never used it because of that.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. You wouldn't expect a big overhead swing to use the force, but
Cal was just that trash.
Yeah. I'll briefly outline how difficulty worked in the game for the listeners. So what they did was they had three levels, three scales. It was incoming damage, I want to say like the parry timing window. And was it outgoing? No, not outgoing damage. That was constant.
Was it force?
Incoming damage?
The force utilization?
It might have been force or something. Force utilization, something like that.
I don't remember.
Either the amount of force you get or the amount that you use would change. But when you picked your difficulty, it would show you like those three levels on a scale. And so you could see that like when you picked the hardest mode, like the parry window was super tiny. And incoming damage was really high. Max. And if you pick the lowest, it was the opposite. So it was cool. I'm glad that they did something other than enemies have more health. Thank you for giving us intelligent and interesting difficulties.
They would change the respawns too. You had more respawn zones if you did on the lower two levels.
Really? Like more checkpoints?
The meditation circles or whatever they're called. Yeah.
Oh, they would just disappear if you went to higher levels?
I didn't do it, but it said it in like the text that you would have less chances to something.
Oh, maybe like you have a certain amount of uses of a particular save point.
I wasn't going to find out exactly what they meant.
Oh, yeah, I don't know anything about that. That'd be interesting. So that's cool. I think that it felt much better to play at a lower level because parrying actually felt possible. It was so hard for me to read the enemy moves, and they acted kind of like semi-randomly, which I appreciate, but I'm like, you can't give me a reaction-based
on random
parry mechanic with an itty-bitty window.
Exactly.
When you have these, like, a lot of these monsters would hit you with, like, their whole dang bodies, you know? And it's like, how am I supposed to time the parry on that?
What do you parry?
Yeah.
Because their whole body glows red, not the point of where they're going to hit you with.
Well, you can't parry when their bodies are glowing red. You have to just dodge.
Well, that too, but yeah.
But like, yeah, so there's a couple monsters that like would hit you with their face, but it isn't like you would normally, like if you see someone rearing back for a headbutt, you can parry that, but they would just lunge suddenly. Or like there was a couple bigger monsters that, you know, would swing around wildly. And in fact, one that even after you killed it would try to hit you one more time in its death throes. And eventually I learned to parry that sucker, but like it took so long, and I'm like, why? So the parry window being smaller was great.
I don't play a whole lot of games with parries, but I feel like the parry in this game never felt that great. Like even when I
never felt useful.
Yeah, it didn't feel useful, and even when I did it, like the animation was super weird. Like a successful parry animation, he'd put his arms up in the air because it was like this big clash. So I guess in context it made sense because they were trying to hit you with all their force. And you parried it, so it's like you didn't take any damage, but it looks like a bad thing's happening. And then on top of that, in other games, when you do successfully parry, it usually means that you can follow up an attack really quickly before they can recover. But it take you just as long to recover from it as it would them.
I found that the parry kind of, especially if there was multiple enemies approaching me at the same time, and I successfully parried another enemy, sometimes it actually led to me getting damage from another enemy because of that like weird animation. So I just a lot of times I'd be like, bump this. I'm just gonna block this, get out of dodge. Maybe like I did find that parries did. I don't know if it was like directly, but it felt like after I parried somebody, their guard would be a little less stiff.
Yes,
you know. So that was kind of the benefit.
In this game, you have a little blocking meter, and as you block attacks or reflect lasers and stuff, your block goes down. Eventually, your block breaks.
Yeah.
Enemies also have a blocking meter, and the weaker enemies basically have no block. You know, you hit them once and they like, oh, and they stumble. But then a lot of the strong enemies have a really huge block. And so if you parry an enemy, it doesn't automatically make them vulnerable. It just damages their block.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's still useful. But for the enemies that have block to spare, like a lot of the purge troopers,
oh yeah,
they'll immediately hit you after you parry them.
Yes,
you have to parry them multiple times.
Yeah, you have to be super strategic, and I just felt like that to me made it feel like I feel like God of War's parry. I enjoyed because it felt like, okay, cool, I get the advantage. You know, I'm in a better position. But it just always felt like, you know what, like I don't. And then, like you said, the window can be weird, and like some enemy animations aren't exactly like clear. Like, is this the parry window? Like, and sometimes I get combo, especially like the dude on Dathomir, who like the best thing to do is to parry him, like, and you could like just murk him. But like I wasn't getting used to his like animation, and like if I messed up the parry, he would just like, got you, gonna hit you 8 times, fool, you messed up.
Yep. You know, or Trilla, you know, she loved swinging that double lightsaber around, and she would like have it spinning on her back and like doing all this extra stuff, and I'm like, what, how, like, where's the parry? You know, like, where's the hitbox I'm supposed to be parrying? Because I guarantee not all those lightsaber swings were actual, like. There was one time I tried to parry somebody, and they were too far away, so the attack just didn't connect. And then I dropped my guard because I thought I had parried them because the timing was perfect, but they hadn't even hit me. And then they hit me with the second attack in the combo.
Got him.
And I got comboed. And I'm like, thank you. Appreciate that.
You know, I'll say one thing about the combat is that it felt like some enemy encounters definitely felt a lot more. Like, I didn't mind fighting the Knight brothers too much. Like, I could kind of get a beat on them. I could get a vibe. You know, when there was multiple of them, it was like, I don't feel like dealing with you. But I felt like, okay, cool. The big giant frog. He, like, so I don't know if y'all both encountered this. It sounded like, I think, Kyle, you said you encountered this. Steve, let me know if you did as well. But when in the first level, when you're on Bogano or whatever, and it's not clear where you're supposed to go, I take the alternate path, going under the ground, and when those frog things dropped in.
Like in a little hidden chamber.
Exactly. Yeah. Apparently.
That boy killed me so many times.
Apparently, I was talking to a friend, and they told me that you are not supposed to be able to beat that frog yet. Like, you encounter it, you're supposed to, I guess, get dissuaded, and then keep moving. But guess what? I guess. Oh, actually, who made Apex? Respawn. I said, guess what, Respawn? I'm a gamer, and you put me in a fight with a thing, and it's like 1-on-1 in a game that I'm just starting.
It's close. You can see that you can kill it.
I think I can beat this thing. I'm gonna fight until I beat this thing. And I think that was the moment where I realized that I did not like the combat and that I was gonna hate this game because. To me, I felt like I knew what the frog was going to do. I knew I understood the attacks. But like anytime there's an enemy, when they do a charge up attack and they do that thing where they rotate on themselves, like, like on their pivot point. And then no matter what you do, they're going to hit you. Like they're going to home in on you.
They snap to your location
every time.
You've rolled.
I'm just like, absolutely not. And also at that point, I didn't really understand blocking yet. Because once I understood blocking, that fight became 100 times easier. But like to me, I was like, this is telling me that like you're too lazy to do this right. Like you are just like easier, just track the transform and then send the attack. They just have to deal with it. And it was like the red attack. And I was just like, I don't know.
His tongue was the red.
Yeah,
so what bothered me about the frog, which I did, both him being really, really powerful, the snapping, but also when you come to him the second time, that's also the first time that I found out about when an enemy kills you, it gets your XP and stuff. You have to hit it to get it back.
Yes.
And so this was the first time that I noticed a critical design flaw because if you walk in there, it's glowing gold and it's supposed to be super vibrant so you can see.
And you can't see the red flash.
Exactly. That gold overrides the red flash that tells you what attack you can block. So when I walked in, I'd walk in ready to fight. Well, the second time I came in, I was like, okay, I'm going to be ready to parry as soon as he does it. He's glowing gold. I don't know what that means yet. But then immediately he sends out that red attack. I try to parry it, and it doesn't work. And that's when it clicked in my mind. I was like, he didn't glow red just now. I couldn't even block what happened. And I'm like, and then that happened throughout the game. Anything that would kill me, if it did a red attack, no notice. And I'm like, how do you miss this? It seemed like such a critical design flaw.
Wow. It was really interesting. I mean, they did, to their credit, they do still play the sound cue for unblockable attacks. So, like, I picked up, like, oh, he's doing an unblockable attack.
Oh, there's a sound
Even if
cue.
I can't.
I never caught onto that.
I would have felt better if I had. But, I don't remember that either.
Yeah, it's kind of like an unpleasant screeching sound. It kind of feels like, like, oh, this is something you should be scared of. So, like, every enemy would do that when they were charging up a unblockable attack.
I do remember that, but I don't know. I guess my mind is thinking that it was on every attack. So if it was on the unblockable ones, I didn't register that it was.
Yeah, I definitely did.
Yeah. Wow. But yeah, so it still makes it harder to dodge it because the timing, the red coloring kind of helps with timing, but the fact that I heard it, I'm like, oh, I should jump or do something or try to get out of the way. Mm-hmm. And to their credit, I mean, it only takes one hit to get your stuff back. So they probably don't expect you to be dealing with that flaw for most of any battle.
Like, you're just gonna see. And I think that, and I appreciate the idea. It kind of comes from that Dark Souls, Bloodborne mindset. But the thing is, like, I don't know what they were thinking. Like, this game, to me, it doesn't feel like Bloodborne. It doesn't feel like Dark Souls. It just feels difficult. And I just don't think that element was a benefit or something that made the game feel more like the game, like Dark Souls and Bloodborne. The reason I really like that element is because as you get better in the game, you feel like you're getting better at the fights. Mm-hmm. And if you happen to die at an enemy, you're like, cool. All right. I just need to fight better, right? And you go and do it, and you learn from it. But I just feel like when I played this game, even on easy, dog, like on easy, I wasn't feeling like I was getting better. I just felt like I was learning either how to maybe gimp a simple enemy, force push the fool off the edge, or like how to just avoid this fool as much as possible and catch him on the slick. like I never felt like I really got the combat,
Yeah. It felt like it was, because Dark Souls, it's like, all right, we have difficult combat. It's grueling. You're going to get killed a lot. But then once you get good, it's really satisfying. Exactly. And once you beat some of these bosses, you feel like you're king of the world.
Exactly.
This just felt like you have difficult combat. It's a little bit grueling. You're going to die a lot. And you have really difficult bosses. And once you beat them, you feel like just like...
You're glad it's over.
Cool. Yeah. Like I didn't really feel satisfied really with most of my... Like when I played well, I felt like it was just like a grim satisfaction. It wasn't like ecstasy.
Like, oh, I'm so happy to be done with this. Like, not like, yeah, that was a great... Yeah, because I think...
Sometimes I only won because an enemy would just happen to randomly pick the attacks that were least devastating.
That's, 100%.
Yeah, I had it where like an enemy just kept doing the same like really attack that would gimp me. And I was like, what is going on here?
You get comboed and juggled.
It's like, ooh. I know this is just a random number generator. Like, there's no logic behind this.
Dude, you know what bothered me? Some of the enemies later in the game get flashbang grenades.
Oh, dude, yeah. I wrote that down. I wrote that junk down. Bro. And there's nothing you can do.
Anywhere you are.
Right. Yeah, no matter where you are. You don't have to... I thought, okay, just don't look at the dumb thing. Nope. No. If it's on the ground, it'll explode and you'll be blind.
No proximity.
I wish... To me, that's such a huge that's such a huge missed opportunity because you're playing as a Force user, right? And how do Force users train? Like as children, they wear like helmets and blind themselves, and they have to react to lasers being shot at them and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, when I'm blind, give me like the outline of a weapon.
That'd be cool.
Enhance the
or
sounds,
like maybe like some sort of like the visibility of like movements without a lot of other details. Like just anything that would signify like I'm relying on the Force.
Nothing.
I'm calming my mind.
So
that would have been sick.
It would have. That's a great idea. But
yeah,
what they did is horrible.
Yeah, the fact that the flashbangs essentially affected you anywhere was what killed me. I was like, if it was proximity wise, like cool, I get it. Even if I'm not looking at it, sure, I'll just take that L. But like, it felt like I could be across the map and I'm still getting affected by this flashbang.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that enemy, there was later in the game when you're on the Star Destroyer, that enemy has a droid with him, and you're surrounded by like the electrified pillars, and he throws those things. And there's also a ledge you can fall off of. And so it's like the worst scenario for an unblockable, completely visually impairing attack. Like that whole fight just feels horrible.
I just learned that if I saw a flashbang go up, I would immediately lock on to the enemy and just
dodge.
Hit them with as much slow as I could and just don't move.
I never thought I just dodged until things got better.
Or dodging didn't work for me. I just slowed them and it helped a lot actually.
So I want to share with y'all the moment that I decided that I was going to play on easy mode. So I was going to ask y'all what do you think when it happened, but it's like I don't know if you want to guess. It's up to y'all.
Wait, I kind of want to guess.
Okay, go for it. When do you think it happened?
You went to easy mode when you were fighting the first Guardians in the Zepho Temple.
Okay. What about you, Cal?
Oh, the Guardians. So you said it was 40% into the game?
Oh, did you say that? I don't remember him saying that.
Yeah, he said he played about half of the game on easy mode.
Oh, okay.
I remember.
It was a decent way in. It wasn't I think it was less than half. I don't know. I can't remember.
I'm assuming it was a repeated death from a boss encounter that wasn't skippable.
Okay.
But which one? Maybe one of the second sister fights?
Yeah, I want to say the second sister fight is my new guess.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't know if it was halfway through. It might have been less. So I'll tell you exactly what happened. So I've been going through this grain, dealing with the grueling. I'm on Kashyyyk. And
what's the spiders?
Yes,
it was the spiders.
So it wasn't the first spider encounter. It wasn't the second spider encounter. It was actually, it was like a moment where y'all might recall this. You walk out and there's some stormtroopers. And the spiders are attacking the stormtroopers.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
And so there's
like a rocket trooper nearby?
Yeah, and I just watched them fight the spider. I think it's pretty funny. I'm like, cool. Y'all clear out the herd and I'll just finish them, right? So the fight happens. I'm like, oh, let me save real quick. Because there's a save point right there.
Yeah.
I save. And then I notice there's an alternate path. And I go, let me go this alternate path and I'll come back and deal with them. Mm-mm. So I go down this alternate path and I walk into a room and I think the game slightly glitched out a little bit because I had a different experience the second time I dealt with this. I walk in the room and I do it like a force reading on somebody and they're like, oh, the spiders, they're screaming, right? And I walk around the room for a bit, just kind of maybe they're just talking about spiders in general.
You should be so lucky.
And as I'm walking out, a spider drops in, right?
Yep.
In the cave.
In that cave.
The albino spider.
Oh,
the albino spider.
Yeah.
So, no, actually, I don't think it was an albino spider. And this is...
It wasn't albino. It was the mother spider or something.
So this is why I think it glitched out a little bit. It fell in, and I was like, cool. Spider fight. I fought a few of these. I just need to fight it like I fight the other ones. I don't know what happened. I don't know why my spirit broke in that moment. But that spider killed me in a way that I was like, I'm done. I literally was like, and I was near a save point. So it wasn't as if I couldn't have just went right back to it and fought it again. And it was like a minimal like inconvenience. It was just something about that fight told me I cannot do this anymore.
Yeah, that spider was a problem.
I cannot do this anymore. And I like looked at the heavens and I said, Lord help me.
Lord, take this thorn
take
from
this
me.
from me. And I just went into the menu. I looked at the menu, changed difficulty, and I sat there for a minute and I said, I'm breaking every gamer code I've ever had. This is like literally not me. I said, but I'm gonna do it for the bros.
You gave it the college try.
I really did. I went and I played and I played and I died a few times. I had some that spider broke you. And the reason I say that I think something glitched out, because the second time I went into that room, I don't know, maybe it's different on different difficulties. I walk in there, the albino spider drops and the mother spider drops.
What?
And there's 2 spiders in that room.
Oh no.
They were like, how dare you drop it?
Yeah, and I had to fight them both. It was not, it wasn't fun. Like, the thing is, maybe I'll play it on easy and just feel it out. Like, the game didn't feel easier. It felt less punishing.
That's correct.
That would make sense with the meters.
Yeah.
I think it's easier because
you can parry.
Because it's less punishing, right? Like damage is less punishing and you have more time to parry. But the attacks are probably just as punishing as everything else.
Yeah, I didn't feel like what I want, because it was actually just called story mode. So to me, I was like, cool. Like, I've never done this before, right? I've never played on easy ever. So I was like, oh, I wonder, like, story mode must be like hit enemies once and they die. And like, you know, I was like, oh no, this is still pretty difficult. Like, I wouldn't.
Tragedy mode.
Like, I wouldn't give this to a person who likes Star Wars but doesn't play games, you know?
No,
like
no.
It would still be too hard for them. And I was like, oh, this is more like normal than it is easy.
So the moment that broke me for going from Jedi Master down to like normal Jedi Knight was well, actually, this is leading into something else I was going to mention. You mentioned Dark Souls, and I've compared this game to Metroid Prime. And so really early in the game, you get the choice to go to 2 different planets.
Yeah.
And one is implied to be like a light side of the Force planet. You're going to go on a little light side adventure. And one is implied to be, well, it's very explicit actually. This is like a dark side, like, ooh, scary.
Don't
like,
go there.
Don't go here.
Don't go there.
Yeah. So of course I go to the light side first. I think that's the Zepho homeworld.
Of course.
I do all that
I didn't
stuff.
do that. Am I the only person who didn't do that?
I didn't go to Dathomir first.
I went straight to Dathomir.
All right. Well, let me come around. So I went to Zepho first, but then at Zepho they're like, oh, let's go to Kashyyyk. But I'm like, no. What about Dathomir? Let me go to the other one.
That's what
that
I
was
went
already
to.
offered to me.
Yeah.
So okay, so we all did this. We all went to Dathomir early. That sucks. Dathomir is not meant to go. You're not meant to go there early. I don't know why.
I have no idea why they made
the
the choice.
Because you can't progress that far. You're hard blocked by your lack of double jump,
and you're underpowered.
Even if you had even without the hard block, like, it's so much more difficult. So what broke me was the Knight Brothers.
Really?
After fighting all these monsters and like stupid spiders, the spiders, man, they would lunge at you and you block it, and then you go to attack and they lunge at you 3 more times immediately.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things. You got to block them multiple times. Yeah. Anyway,
terrible RNG.
Not RNG. It was a combo. They would lunge, and there'd be a beat, and then they would lunge 2 or 3 more times.
Oh, I didn't get it consistently.
Oh, I did. I learned to block 2 or 3 more times. Actually, what happens is if you parry the first hit, they don't get a chance to attack more because you knock them over because you parried them real good.
Maybe that's.
But eventually, you make your way through the monsters, and they introduce Marin, the Night Sister, and a few Night Brothers, and these boys hit hard.
They do.
And their stupid maces have like an area of effect. So even if you do a quick dodge to block their big old attack, you'll still take damage from the blast.
Mm-hmm.
And I died a few times to the first. It was like 2 or 3 brothers in a cave, like the very first time you meet them. And I'm like, no, I'm done. I'm going to normal.
Yeah, I died there
that
too.
Was it. Yeah, that was when I was on the PlayStation 4. I think I might have persisted. I felt really good by the end of it. I might have persisted on the hard mode if I had had a PS5 with improved frame rate. But yeah, that was the moment I gave up. I'm like, I guess I'm doing the God of War. I'm going to drop down a level.
There was something that I realized like throughout the game, but was super apparent on Dathomir. And that was that the game designers love to hide enemies around corners.
Dude, I wrote this down. I wrote this down.
That was the one time I've never seen an enemy around a corner.
Are you kidding me? The zombie ladies would grab me from behind.
The zombie ladies.
The Night Brothers, the same. They would pop out a corner and just swipe you. So I just literally walked through Dathomir guarding all the time.
You have to.
I was like, I'm done with this.
That's really weird. There was one specific place where there was always a guy hiding, and he always caught me slipping if I wasn't guarding.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I felt like it was usually pretty clear there was going to be somebody. Like, they would be a little bit ahead of me, or like around a corner in like a big space where I can dodge back. There was only one time where they were like hiding behind a door frame, basically, where they like caught you slipping.
And they did that a few times on Dathomir and other places. And like you said, Kyle, it was definitely what I think the designers thought was like Dark Souls-y, because Dark Souls has a few of those moments where like something pops out and then like pop kills you. But I mean, it's probably not fun in Dark Souls either, but it kind of got old. I wrote it down. I was like, people jumping out the corner has gotten old. I get it. It's not fun. It wasn't fun the first time, and it's not fun the 10th time. I do not care. Please stop.
Like if it was if it was simpler to like either mash out of the grab or avoid the grab altogether, then I would appreciate it. But again, like the same issue we were having with the boss fights, a lot of the stuff in this game simply wasn't reactable. And if you could react, it wasn't always, or there really wasn't a whole lot of options, because you can't jump away from a grab if they're in range. Like they're gonna snap to you and grab you anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and so there's nothing you could do about it, and it just felt cheap. And so it was more frustrating than
challenging,
than difficult. Yeah, and so I think that's one of the things about Dark Souls. Like, yeah, it's challenging or difficult, but fair. While this game just felt like they tried to just make it difficult.
It's just cheap
because
Speaking of jumping. So you never used lock-on, Kyle, but I don't know if you did, Brad. Did you jump in fights, or were you always dodging?
With lock-on, so I think toward the end of the like middle to end, I realized, wait a second, I can do force backwards jumps, like you said, like the Zelda thing, and I would use them periodically, but I think I was more of a dodge overall, right. Like 85% of the time.
So here's the thing, right? I realized that except for one boss fight at the very end with Trilla, and maybe one before, I feel like I'm remembering something, but I can't place it. There is no reason to jump in the game. And that's how bad the jump is. That they didn't even create like reasons to jump until you had a double jump.
It's true.
But Trilla had this attack. It was like a wave. You had to jump over it.
Yeah.
But that was it. Like I can't think of another attack that it made sense to always jump over. Maybe some of the if there was like a bomb on the floor, or some of those random encounters with the brood. You know what I'm talking about? Like the random bounty hunters who would catch you.
Okay.
Slipping.
So okay, let's keep talking combat, but we definitely have to talk story for a bit, because I'd love to get y'all's take. But no, I 100% agree on the jump. Number one, my feeling about the jump in general, especially in this game, was that since it was unwieldy outside of combat, I absolutely didn't want to trust it in combat. No. I was like,
of course.
I'm not pressing the jump button, because I just have this feeling I'm gonna jump, have no air control. And then they're just gonna like gimp me or like hit me, and then I get stun locked or something. I was just like, nah.
And everyone has these huge hit boxes.
Yeah. So I want to say one thing. Once again, this game to me is like a 2.5 out of 10. But there's one fight in the game that almost convinced me to move the game back to normal. Because I actually enjoyed it way more than I thought I would. It was fighting, I think, the ninth sister or the eighth sister. The ninth sister?
Yeah, ninth sister boss fight.
The big girl?
Yeah, the big girl. I don't know why, but that was like the fight where I was like, oh, like I'm actually having fun with this. Like
she was balanced. She had a rush attack. Mm-hmm. Her stuff was parryable. It was a very fun fight.
Yeah, it was a fun fight. It felt like what I wanted out of the game the whole way through. Mm-hmm. And if I had maybe died on her at all, but I'm playing on easy or whatever, story mode, I might have actually, if I died on her on easy for some reason, I might have actually moved it up to normal to fight her because I was having a good time dealing with her, like moving around, figuring out how to deal with her. It just, I don't know, like maybe you were mentioning it, Kyle, like just maybe it was readability, she didn't feel super cheap. Like, I don't know. I also liked her character, like in general. She's a little brash, like.
You liked her? What character?
I mean, like, okay.
Her personality.
She was very antagonistic, like directly towards you.
Yeah.
She would tease and stuff. Like, it was satisfying to finally beat her because she would always be like one step ahead of you.
Yeah, and I just felt like it felt right. Her quips in the fight were just matching her personality and like, I don't know. It just felt like one of the few like boss fights. Well, there wasn't a ton of boss fights in this game. But like, I don't know. I really enjoyed playing her. And if I were to play this game, like if somebody said, oh, I want to go back and see you play it, I'd be like, that's the fight I'm going to do. And I'd probably put on normal because it would be challenging and I might lose. But I think I would have enjoyed the experience.
Sure.
So I actually want to give my little story about what broke me too. Since we both have stories about changing difficulties. Yeah. And so it was actually a fight pretty close to the ninth sister one because I only changed it for this fight and then I immediately switched it back. So the second sister fight, when you go down this elevator and she's like standing in front of the door you need to go to, and it felt a lot like the first second sister fight because she's like talking down to you. And you're like dodging her stuff. And so the first one is like the very beginning of the game and you're not supposed to win. And so you're fighting her and eventually she kills you. And so this one, it felt a whole lot like that. But I was stronger and I was like feeling pretty good. And I was like, what would happen if I actually beat her? And so I was fighting her, got her down to like just past like 50% health. And then she went into her new phase. And maybe I knocked off 10% more of her health at that point. And then she killed me. And I was like, man, I felt like I got really close. But since I got her down to like, 60% of her health was down, then I guess I'm not supposed to win this fight. But I wonder if I can, type of thing. And so I fought her again, got her even closer. She had like maybe 80% of her health was gone. And I was like, okay, I'm not supposed to win this fight. Or I am supposed to win this fight. No, that's what I thought. I'm supposed to win this fight. But I'm not going to. Because that was the best run I did. She had like 20% health left. And so then I switched it to story mode. Because I was like, I'm not just going to get stuck on this wall because every time I have to come down the elevator, it's like 5 minutes to get to the fight. And then it's another 5 minutes in the fight. But this was a fight where you're supposed to get her down to like 1/10 of her health. And then it goes to a cutscene. And I felt so like baited. And like
Annoyed.
They stripped away the opportunity for me to actually like win the fight. Even if it was going to go to the cutscene afterwards. I was like, why not just give me that little bit of sliver of her health just to finish it off? To finish the fight. Like, why stop it? And then she's like, oh, I've only been using part of my power anyway. I'll fight you again later. I felt just so defeated because I was like, I switched to the mode so I can actually win the fight just for them to switch it up and say, oh no, you weren't supposed to win. So annoying.
They were like, nah, we're not giving you what you want.
I know we've talked about this before, but I do not mind when the designers use, I guess, non-zero health bars to finish a fight.
So speaking of that, so the first time you encounter her, you're supposed to lose?
Yeah, on the back of the train.
Like lose all your health?
Yeah, like she kills you.
I don't know if I died to her.
I don't remember.
I very much recall fighting her until I ran into a cutscene, but it was like I was chipping away at her health, and it felt like a time thing. Because I know I didn't die. I don't think I died.
So you might be right too, because I actually did research on it because she killed me, but because since you can chip away at her health, I was like, I wonder if you can beat this first fight. And of course, there was somebody on YouTube who did it, and it took him like 20 minutes. But it was like when the game first came out in 2019. Guess what happens when you beat her?
What?
Oh no!
So
it still shows the same cutscene where you lose.
That would have been better.
Oh no!
The game soft locks.
Oh,
you hit her. They had to patch it.
You hit her last time with her saber. With your saber,
think you could ever do it.
She stands up straight in an A pose, drops her saber on the ground, and the game soft locks.
I gotta go watch this. That is hilarious.
That's so funny. That's so embarrassing for the team.
Yeah.
So they patched it since then.
They must have fixed it because I definitely don't remember dying to her, but I do remember it like cutting to a cutscene in the middle.
Yeah, the same guy, he did an updated video after they patched it. And I'm guessing they patched it because of his first video. But yeah, now it just goes on to the cutscene.
Okay.
You know how I mentioned I slow enemies when they drop a flashbang? Mm-hmm. That's actually how I beat her in the boss fight at the end of the game. She dropped. I missed. She had really low health and she dropped a flashbang, so I slowed her down.
Ooh.
And it started to fade away before the slow did. So I ran up to her and I did like 1 or 2 attacks, and that was the last bit of her health. And so the finishing cutscene started, but the flashbang was still on the screen. Okay. So I missed like a second of the cutscene. I was so annoyed.
So it flashbanged the actual cutscene.
Yes.
Oh, I wish you had saved that clip. Oh,
I might have. I don't think I did.
But
I saved a few clips.
Great. Oh, like that is so trash.
Like when it goes away, you see her pupils are dilated.
So really quick, I just want to run through. You already mentioned. I think you mentioned it at the very beginning, Brad, when you were complaining about the 2.5 game. But this game had so many bugs, and on the PS4, it was even worse.
Oh yeah, it was a mess.
There was at least one cutscene where like the cutscene was pausing and stuttering, which was a just abysmal experience. Even on the PS5, that was on the PS4. Even on the PS5, sometimes a cutscene would get desynced from the audio by like 3 seconds or something. That was like the end, like basically the end of the game. I had to sit through.
Really,
like, really bad
desynced?
audio.
Oh, that's terrible.
Desynced. Yeah, it was terrible. Tons of graphical glitches. Pop in. Yeah, lots of like pop-in. I can tons of pop in is fine. Like it's not a good experience, but I'm like, it's a graphical issue. It's not like a bug necessarily. Even though it shouldn't be happening on the PlayStation 5, there's no reason.
I feel like the frame rate, like they didn't anticipate it for PS5 because in the cutscenes, since they were in engine, the camera would switch and everybody's hair would just fly.
Yeah, I was about to mention that.
I love that.
Yeah. Darth Vader, spoiler alert, Darth Vader shows up. His cape, every time they cut to Darth Vader, his cape would go whoosh. And it was like, I fierce. Really can't respect you when you're when you're doing all this.
I want to talk story, and I was going to just ask y'all in general, because once again, I played the last section of the game on story mode, and I was like reflecting in my head. I was like, this was like annoying. Like the end sequence of all the people I had to fight and then getting to her felt very annoying. But I was like thinking to myself, I was like, man, how terrible would this have felt? And like, how difficult would this be on any other mode other than story mode? So how was that last like underwater base, like multiple enemies?
I didn't think it was more annoying than.
Okay.
I actually kind of appreciated it. It was straightforward. It's basically just a little gauntlet. Mm-hmm. Just fight some dudes, get to the save point. It didn't feel very different.
I feel like this is one of those games where they make all the like really cool set pieces and areas for like the trailer first. And so like the end of the game felt really polished in comparison to a lot of the other parts. So like after the ninth sister fight, the game felt a whole lot better overall, I would say. Like story beat wise and in the fights and stuff.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering. I was like, man, I feel like I'm getting. I felt bad for y'all because I was like, man, this feels like it doesn't feel terrible. Like it felt like, okay, I got to fight these people. But once again, I'm like, this is easier and I'm not getting as punished. So I was like, I wonder how much more difficult this has to be for somebody playing it normally. But okay, that's interesting to hear.
Which now that I think about it, I think I might have switched back to story mode for the last second sister fight, just because of what happened in the previous one. I just didn't. I didn't have the capacity within me to fight her fairly. I was like, no, I just want to win.
She had a huge health bar, and it just was like, and
a bunch of different attacks.
Yeah, I get boss fights have to have more health or be stronger, but I feel like having an egregiously long health bar is like just so annoying. Just make the boss fight more interesting, and just I don't know. Just make it harder for me to attack them, then maybe make it like I have to hit them 50 times, or something stupid like that. Anyway.
Yeah, it did feel a little like that.
I think my second favorite boss fight, now that you mentioned that, was actually the bat because of the different phases.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say the part that really messed me up with that was, do you guys remember when the bat is chasing you up the wall? It's right after you get the grabby hands.
Yeah.
And the rocks are falling.
Uh-huh.
The perspective on that section messed me up so bad because it looks like the rocks are falling at you. And so I tried to dodge the rocks. But then when I went to dodge the rocks, there was like a little piece of geometry that would slow me down. And I kept dying from the bat catching me.
Dude, the exact same thing happened to me. I tried to dodge a rock. I got stuck in a corner and the bat ate me.
And so eventually I was like, I guess I just got to eat the damage from the rock. But no, the rock falls over you. It falls past you.
It does?
What?
The rock falls past
know that.
you.
I just avoided. Oh, really? I didn't know that.
That's super stupid.
Super stupid.
Is even stupider than what I thought was the solution, which was just simply like move diagonally, like really quickly at the beginning to get out of the range.
Yeah. I just went faster. That was my solution. Yeah. I stayed out of range of the bat, and I had more time to like carefully navigate the little corners.
Wow. Yeah, unless my game glitched and it was having mercy on me, I just stopped avoiding the rocks altogether. Was about to eat the damage from the first one, and it flew right past my back and hit the bat on the head.
Goofy.
So I actually wrote in my notes the flying bat boss fight was so lame and cheap feeling. I was like, it wasn't hard. I just felt like
I thought it was easy.
It was super easy, but it just felt super cheap. Like, okay, like this boss. First of all, where did this bat come from? Like, okay. Speaking of, okay, this is a great segue to story because I think this story was terrible. In my personal opinion, I felt like all the characters were stupid to me. The only characters that I liked were this nice sister, and I kind of liked emo.
Marin.
Yeah, dark sister or whatever. What was it called?
Come again? Dark sister?
Dark sister.
The witch?
What's her name? Marin, but she's a night sister.
sister.
Yeah, because I thought that her character... Well, I thought her character arc was stupid, but I liked her character. Like, the way that she was written. Like, I thought she was interesting.
Yeah. So I thought she was going to be a legitimate companion. I was disappointed.
That would have been fun. Like, she kind of had some good like stuff. I think in the next game they might play out on that. But
like Atreus.
Yeah, like Atreus, Like, honestly, I just thought that this story was like one of those situations where you can't because of the Star Wars universe and the mainline movies and like some of the games or whatever, you got to tread very softly, you know? Like, you can't rewrite history. You can only like amplify it or like tell an alternate story that ends up in failure anyway. And I think one thing they also did was just assume that you cared about Star Wars, because it really felt like they just were moving. Like, the story just felt like, yeah, we doing this thing now. Oh yeah, like why do I trust any of you people? Just because like you said a thing, and then like everybody just seemed, to me personally, uninteresting. Though, I mean, I'm just hitting high points, but like
it has all the tropes of a Star Wars movie.
It was
like, everything just goes. Everyone trusts each other.
It's pretty faithful to
like
them.
You said.
Yeah, and it just didn't feel like a story that needed to be told. Like, it was just like, okay, like, sure, this didn't work out the way that you wanted. And then the ending was so stupid. Oh my gosh. I cannot tell you how much I hated it. Like, I was like, clearly that's what they're going to do. Like, it was like, he was like, I wonder, it was like you could tell he was having those moments. But like they have the stupid Omicron Persei 8 in front of them. and they're going, like, they're thinking to themselves, like, talking about it. He's just like, crush. I think it's better that nobody has it. And I was like, yeah, we're a family and we're gonna do this together. Like, I was like,
bro.
Ugh.
Yeah. So the whole time, the obvious conflict that I thought was coming was that, you know, what's her name? Seer is going to be a little bit dark side, maybe a little bit too invested in like bringing back the Jedi. And Cal is going to be more like, reserved. Let's just fight the Empire. And they're going to come into a conflict where she wants to do this with a holocron, but he wants to do that with a holocron.
Right.
And then, so that never came up. Seer was a perfect individual with no qualms, or sorry, no flaws or like extra conflict or anything. And then at the end, Marin is like, are you sure you want to do that? And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe this conflict's going to come up now. And it never does. Everyone just agrees implicitly, cool. Like, yes, let's destroy the holocron. He does it. I'm like, oh, that was
so
easy,
bad.
I guess.
And just even the sorry, go ahead, Kyle. Say what you're gonna say.
I was gonna say it just makes me wonder because I felt like that would have been a really good way to tie in this sequel that's supposed to come. So it makes me wonder what they're gonna do because like that was the whole point. Like what really like I guess ruined it for me. Like the whole point of the game was to find this thing, and then for them to pull the trope and just like. The last 15 hours you spent playing this game were meaningless.
Meaningless.
Absolutely because you have one extra friend on Dathomir, which is the place you could have went at the very beginning of the game if you wanted to. So it's like, we didn't have to do any of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they didn't know, but like everything they needed was on Dathomir the whole time, which was the second place they were told to go.
Right.
Yes. And I get that that's what they were trying to do. Like, oh, it was always there the whole time, and you didn't really, you know.
That is not a fun
like, it's not good. And also, I think that, like, oh, okay. I want to talk about what I thought was super stupid and it felt really empty was the tiff between Seer and Cal. When Seer's story, like, first of all, like, I get the, like, being upset at Seer because of, what's her name? Her Padawan? Trilla. Like, yeah. I kind of get it. But at the same time, like, they were all being murdered. She was being tortured. Like, I don't know, get it, but like, he was so upset at her. Like, it felt kind of undue. Like, it was forced. It felt really forced. Yeah. And they were just like, he's like, I don't want to talk to you now, Seer, your stupid face. And then all of a sudden they're like, we're friends again. Like, I was like, what is going on? Like,
yeah, they kept making those big turnarounds because. Yeah. Wasn't the reason why Cal was abducted because of the guy who was driving the ship? What's his name?
Oh, son! What was that?
Grease. Yeah. Wait. And so, like, he sold him as a Jedi. What? And they came and saved him and was like, I'm glad you're okay, you're my family. And they were just cool now?
Wait, what happened? Okay. This is something that I need to ask y'all to clarify. Because I think I accidentally shortcutted the story because... You know when you're leaving, you're on Kashyyyk or whatever, and you're heading back, and you encounter the bounty hunter.
Yeah.
Did y'all beat that bounty hunter?
No, he beat me.
Okay. So, I was like, okay. But I never understood why Grease was apologizing for anything. Like, I was super confused when he came and picked him up.
Wait, so you beat the bounty hunter and then just went on your merry way?
No, I lost to the bounty hunter. I got electrified and showed up in the prison. But when did they talk about Grease doing anything?
So all right. So that's easy to have missed. You get abducted, you break out of prison, you go through all this stuff, and then you get to this like Coliseum type area. Arena. And they're like, ladies and gentlemen, is that right? So
yeah, that all tracks.
Okay, good. So, ladies and gentlemen, blah blah blah. Here's a Jedi. We're gonna fight him. At some point, that guy says.
Your old
like Grease. You can thank Grease Grubby Arms or something. Yeah. Forearm Grease for your predicament. And at that point, I didn't really know Grease's name that well. I'm like, I don't know who that is. Okay. But then later I was like, oh, Grease the pilot, duh. And so I don't know. I mean, between that and reading the little character, like the journal entries that are given to you, it's made explicit. So this man apparently gambles a lot.
Okay, I caught that
and
part.
it's an issue he has, and he got a bunch of debt with the Haxian brood.
Okay,
and they went looking for him, but while they were staking him out, they saw a Jedi, and they were like, "Oh, we prefer the Jedi," so they got you instead. So it's his fault you got captured because of his massive gambling.
So I had
debt.
to read the menu.
We didn't have to. I think it was. I mean, I feel like I knew that. I did read everything.
My only understanding was that Grease had a gambling problem, which totally made sense. Look at that guy, and I
sleazebag.
And then I just thought you got captured because it makes sense. Like the First Order or whatever is looking for you.
No, it's not. So they have nothing to do with the First Order.
Yeah,
that's what I thought was why you got captured. And then
I thought so too.
And then I said, okay, cool. It's just some weird thing they found you and you're fighting. But like when I got on the ship and Grease was apologizing to me, I was just like, what are you apologizing for? Like other than you being a crackhead and having a gambling problem, I get it. That's your past. But it felt really weird. Like it felt, and then he just felt really remorseful. And I guess that's what I was missing. Okay, that makes sense.
It feels like with both him and with Seer, they just wanted to stuff in a little character conflict so that you could get over it and have a big, warm, happy hug after.
And it fell flat.
Yeah, it did feel a little flat. And I'm fine. I mean, it's a short game, relatively short.
So they didn't earn it, but they decided to try to cash in on it anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
True. And with Marin, it's like, she's our family now. It's like, I mean, she did bury a guy, but other than that, she hasn't really done anything.
Let's talk about Malicos, the random homeless man with no shirt that literally felt absolutely like out of nowhere. Like his storyline, they really tried to make it seem like it had so much weight. Like, come join me, and like, but I was like, this is literally a random dude who's just over here messing with people's head. Like, he's literally a side mission. Like,
yes,
I don't understand why.
Here's what I think happened with Malicos. Two things happened. First, after the ninth sister, they needed someone for you to fight that wasn't the second sister. That felt like a boss.
Why not the eighth sister?
Second,
the seventh sister.
Right. Well,
another bad.
That begs the question. That makes me wonder, like, why is it only women? Are there not male inquisitors?
I think they could have used that big dog thing that was at Dathomir, but they kind of nerfed it. It was weird because it was at the very beginning of the level and not very hard to fight. Even its alpha version.
Dog thing?
Yeah, it was the beast on its hind legs. It was like the furry beast. I don't know what it was called, man.
What?
Bro, I don't know what you're talking about.
On Dathomir, when you first walk up the path, there's a flat rock area.
You mean the thing with real long arms that swings?
Slimy looking alien looking thing?
Slimy? No, he wasn't slimy.
I don't know if it was slimy, but it had long arms that would swing real big.
Yeah,
swing
it was kind of like a bear wolf.
Not like a dog at all.
He didn't look like a wolf or a bear. He just looked like a monster with long.
Yeah.
So you know what I was talking about, but you're going, all right, fine.
No,
I didn't know. You said a dog, and I'm like, I don't know.
I was like, maybe I'm missing. I played on easy mode.
But now we know what you're talking about. Please continue.
Anyway, yeah, they could have used that thing as the big bad
I think that would have.
I mean, it would have made as much sense as that random bat that came out of nowhere, or that random dragon who became your friend. All that stuff made no sense to me. Like, it was
dragon
just like,
friends.
What is happening?
Yeah, I forgot they made you friends with the dragon.
Like the random bird came out.
So that's the first thing with Malicos. I think they just wanted there to be another villain, and they were like, we only got 2 sisters because we only had the budget for 2. I
forgot.
The second thing is, I think they really wanted to like play up the dark side themes because it's a Star Wars game, and of course you have to have dark side themes.
Of course.
And so they needed somebody who was like
Sith adjacent.
Yeah, well, I mean, it can't just be obviously like, the Inquisitors are tuned in with the dark side, but they're not tempting. Like dark side in Star Wars media, it's always about temptation.
That's true.
And the choices you make. And so he represented the choices Cal can make, but it doesn't work because neither us nor Cal would feel any inclination to join him.
He's just a random dude on
it. They really tried. It just feels like they just didn't get it to work.
Malicos was so trash. Like it just I felt like Night Sister Marin, I felt like number one, her transition, like her just being like, oh, this dude tricked me the whole time. Like, okay, like you're right. Yeah. Like it felt a little dumb, but I kind of felt like, okay, this makes a little sense. So I
chose to believe she just got tired of his crap. I was like, well, this kid seems nicer than I initially thought.
And they're around the same age, so it's like, there's a bond. So I felt like I would have preferred fighting her and then her being like her just being purely a like in the way type of person, and then like you befriend her like Luffy when you beat somebody up in One Piece, they become your friend.
So join your crew.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
So would Kyle, if that happened, would you want to get her health bar all the way to 0, or would you want to stop?
Oh my gosh, man, yes.
Also, Marin released the little Night Sister zombies.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Why couldn't she?
They never talk about
why
that.
Why couldn't she stop that junk after you became her friend?
I did notice there were still rogue zombies around.
They were still attacking.
Yeah, and the Night Brothers. Doesn't she command? Don't they worship the sisters?
Maybe it only worked one way.
I cannot stop what I have unleashed. She had that vague Romanian,
like, I don't know.
Eastern European.
I just don't really, you want to listen to some punk rock.
Speaking of age, there was another thing throughout the game that was kind of interlinked with the story, and that was Cal's backstory. What do you guys think about, I guess, those segments?
You mean like the flashbacks where he got powers and that's all they were for?
Those, as well as the ones, I guess, that showed, what he and his master went through.
Yeah. I thought they were well done, actually. I thought Child Cal was really believable, and I thought the trauma that he went through was really believable, and it made sense with how he acted now.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I think I wrote this down right after that last flashback where it showed what happened to Cal and his master was, I don't need you to tell me this story again. Like, I just feel like we get it. Order 66 or whatever killed a lot of people, and there's a lot of trauma, and the weird thing to me is like this game doesn't feel like it's introducing you to the Star Wars universe.
That's true.
It feels like it's just you assumes you know all this trash already. So I was like, I don't know why this is interesting. Like, I think you're right in the sense that it was well done. Like, I think it did what it was trying to do, but it just felt like,
but why do it?
Like, like it's clear that his master died saving him. Like, I don't know what other conclusion other than his master becoming on the dark side or something and him fighting him later. Like, it just felt like that was clearly what happened. He's by himself on this junk planet. His master's gone. Like, what else could have happened? Like,
yeah.
You know what my question is? Order 66. The fact that you can just call it 66 means that it's something that all the clone troopers already knew about at all levels of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it's only 66 means that there's probably some short list of orders that are just memorized by everybody. And maybe it's a longer list, but 66 isn't that many orders, I guess.
1 to 65.
How did none of the Jedi know about Order 6? Like, did they know about 61 through 64, but not 66? Were there thousands of them?
So maybe it was like a sleeper agent situation where it was just kind of embedded in their psyche.
Essentially, it was embedded in their like DNA or something. So my understanding is that when Boba Fett gave his DNA for him to make all the clone troopers, or Jango, right? Wait, Jango.
It was Jango.
It's Jango.
Yeah.
And it was at the facility. That's when the Emperor went there, and when they were doing the programming process, he actually embedded that Order 66. So that Order 66, I don't think there's like other.
It's not an actual order.
Yeah,
that's
it's just
around.
like the
it was just a
code
keyword.
word. Yeah, exactly. Like
Okay.
from my
That makes a lot more
understanding,
sense.
That would make sense.
That also explains why they turned so easily on the people they had just been serving.
yeah, because it's kind of like with the Winter Soldier. Like you
Hypnosis.
say those words and he's the Winter Soldier again.
It's an override.
Like yeah. So, but yeah, I think like okay. To me, the story overall, like nothing new here. I was like, yes. Like the only thing that was kind of interesting was like the fact that they like converted some of the Jedi or whatever, the Padawans,
into Inquisitors. Yeah,
I was like, oh, that's cool. I wish they could have spent more time on that in some capacity. Maybe in the next game they will. Because I was like, oh, that's cool. Maybe that's something that's already known in the Star Wars universe, but I wasn't familiar with it, so I thought that was cool. And I think, yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned the end of the game, and we were talking about how much you didn't like it. But I will say this: Darth Vader showing up maybe feels a little phoned in, but it was still really well done. Let me rephrase that. Phoned in means it wasn't well done. It feels like maybe they didn't deserve to bring in a heavy hitter like Vader, but when they did such a great job of it. And the scene. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, continue.
The scene, like the set piece where you're running from him and he's just tearing apart the whole facility trying to get to you, and like the bridge is flying around, and like the elevator, he like tries to cut through the elevator, which, all right, that's probably the weakest part. This man couldn't get to you in an elevator.
Pretty sad.
Anyway, yeah, that was cool. I liked that bit. And then you come around a corner and he's just standing there waiting for you. Like, that was great. Yeah. Vader being there was dope. His cape flying around because of weird physics, not so good.
Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of hard. Like, the only place I've seen Vader where I felt like he wasn't cool is in Fortnite. Otherwise, if they just stick to his brand where he's like the most powerful dude in the room, it's kind of hard to not be hype whenever he's on screen.
I don't know. Fortnite Vader still, when he force pulls you and he can just jump through buildings, like he's just completely overpowered. Like
he's just a tank.
I think it's pretty cool. But anyway,
dude,
they still did him well.
I'm embarrassed to say it, but Vader actually killed me in the when you attack him and he is like choking you.
It's not really that clear what you're supposed to do.
Exactly. This is the complaint I had. Is I was pushing all these buttons. Like, what am I supposed to do? And it has a little R button for the right thumbstick, and it says aim, and I'm like, what?
Right.
So I'm like looking around, and I'm like, I don't see anything, and then I died.
Yeah.
And the second time I started aiming immediately, I'm like, oh, there's a big old air conditioner behind him. Let me force pull it.
And it was blurred. Like it's blurred in the background.
Yeah, but it was glowing blue. But you have to look right at it.
I think I died too. I don't know if it was that moment, but I think I died in the sequence as well. Somewhere in there. Okay. So don't feel bad. Well, I actually wrote this in my notes. So actually I need to update my score. The game actually deserves a 3 out of 10. I said
another 0.5.
I said Darth Vader. All caps. Only reason this game gets a 3 out of 10.
You already knew.
Like, honestly, I thought that was I just love anytime you encounter somebody who's just absolutely OP. Right? Like in any game, in anime, in a movie, like somebody who's just on another level that puts a scale to things, right? Like the battle that Cal was having with Trilla was inconsequential at the end of the day. Because if Darth Vader happened to show up 5 minutes earlier, this would all be done, right? And I just love that feeling of like futility and just, you gotta run. Like just run. Like, and just Darth Vader just casually walking as he always does, just doing crazy stuff. And he I guess he's so damaged anyway. I guess he can't really run unless he force. But also there's like this arrogance because I think
he's really heavy too.
Yeah, it's like I think if Darth Vader really wanted to kill him, he would have just like force dashed at him and just grabbed him, cut him in half, right?
Yeah.
But it's like playing with your food and knowing like this guy is literally no threat, like zero threat. And I think like I just loved how it just really just was like, oh, Cal, you think you're getting better, but you're literally nothing. And at the end of the day, you're not beating Darth Vader. Not in one-on-one combat. not head on.
In your dreams.
You are nothing. You are and I think that helped me to feel better about the overall storyline for them saying like, oh yeah, this changes nothing. Like Cal is not, because like Seer, first of all, like Seer was getting it. I won't lie. She was getting it.
Mm-hmm.
She was getting it, but it's just levels, like once she got to her, and it also showed the difference between a Padawan who never turned into a master, a true master,
and a master,
and then Darth Vader. Right.
Yeah.
So I like that ending sequence because of that. So that's
cool.
It was that I was saying. Yeah, it was good.
I have something that kind of goes against my word. So if Darth Vader would have showed up, and then he had a health bar, I think I would have been okay with that, because obviously
with not finishing it.
Yeah, because obviously any damage you do on Darth Vader, it doesn't matter. It's all for he's playing a game, right? So
exactly.
If you hit him at all, you get his health bar down. The health bar was just for you to feel better. But it doesn't matter. Nobody knows how much health this guy actually has. So I would have been fine with that, But like people that actually feel like I can fight and they have a health bar and I don't get the satisfaction of beating them, that's not cool. Darth Vader's on a different level.
I would love to play a Darth Vader Star Wars game. First of all, Darth Vader's OP, so it's like, how does that make sense? I would love where it's just a scaling of his OP-ness. So it's like, at the beginning of the game, he's already OP and he's like murdering everybody. But like he's slowly remembering things from his past that he was taught by Obi-Wan that's making him even stronger. So he's like progressively getting, like in the beginning of the game, like he can force push like 10 people, 100 people. And eventually like he's like, oh, I can actually just pull satellites out of the sky. You know what I'm saying? Like,
so like Dynasty Warriors, but with Darth Vader?
Yeah, and it's just him. Of course you could somehow lose, like there's a lose condition, but it's really just about him being, Dynasty Warriors level, just crushing people. Like at the beginning of Force Unleashed, when you get to play with him, that's awesome. Kind of, I just want a game where you're just Darth Vader. Like, and it's not even like a story, it's just Darth Vader showing up at places where people are putting up a resistance and just crushing it. Like the reason nothing about these stories is because he's murdered everybody there.
By himself.
And he ended bloodlines. There's nothing to tell. It's like that event never even happened in the Star Wars universe. Because once Darth Vader showed up, like, you didn't know there was a resistance movement on this planet. Because he wiped it out, I would love to play that.
I still think about the end of Rogue One.
Yes.
If you haven't seen the Rogue One, Darth Vader. It's the end of Rogue One is the beginning of A New Hope.
Yeah.
Right? And so Darth Vader shows up and just wrecks a whole room full of
so awesome.
Of not unarmed, but unaware soldiers.
Unready.
Just tears them apart.
They had no chance.
Unready. Completely unready. And the room is black. Like it's totally dark.
Ooh,
the only light is the laser beams and his lightsaber.
At the beginning.
And he's just
at the beginning.
Wrecking house.
Yeah, I think I remember being in the theater, and when that happened, and the lightsaber goes boom, and then it's red, and you see the theater, like everybody was like, "Oh!" Like everybody was just there
erupted,
like a run of the mill, like side story. Not run of the mill. It was a good movie. Rogue One was a good movie, but but you kind of knew that, like at the end of the day, like this wasn't gonna have an impact. But when he showed up, like just it was so it was, and they just showed his power, like. That was like the first time I think they really showed his raw power, other than him just doing like random stuff back in the day in the original movies. So it was
lifting people, cutting people in half.
He, man, I know we're getting late, but there was one thing that speaking of lightsabers, that we kind of glossed over earlier in this game. I loved how like detailed and, like. How much effort they put into the world and the environments and making everything feel like it fit. I think that's something we haven't talked about, is they did a really good job with that.
Mm-hmm.
But it made it so disappointing when there was like a bunch of vines or a few pipes blocking like an area that looked like I could explore it. I have a lightsaber.
Right.
Why can't I cut through the obvious chains or vines or whatever is sitting there?
Which makes it worse.
Well, sometimes you can, but they make it really obvious. It's like a certain kind of pipe you can cut. Right. Oh my gosh, it was so annoying. Just block off the areas. Just make it a solid wall. I'm not that surprised I can't cut through a solid wall.
The only way that I would let them get away with that is that I don't know if y'all are familiar with this, but like lightsabers have settings, like kind of like
I didn't
phase
know that.
to stunt. Like so, Padawans the way that they train Padawans so they don't kill each other is that they give them lightsabers, but they put them on like the tase setting, stun mode,
the lowest amount of hot glowing plasma.
Yeah, so it's a whole. So like you can't like just cut through things, right? So it would have been a really interesting story element if they said like he didn't know how to unlock the full potential of a lightsaber yet, so he couldn't cut through certain things, right? That would have been,
or heck, that would have been a good force power. Like you have a little flashback and you're like, oh, let me turn this off stun. And then you can damage enemies more. Mm-hmm. You can cut through some of their blocks, and you can open up new areas. That would have been cool.
Yeah, because the fact that you can cut through like stormtroopers all the way through, like rend them. I'm like, okay, so this thing is at full. Like this isn't
Yeah.
And also one thing though, I do think there is a difference in ability to wield a lightsaber, because I just thought about how Darth Vader at the end, when they close the door on him. And then it's like, okay, we're safe. Like in their mind, because they've never been able to cut through a wall with a lightsaber. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, like there is a difference in your ability to use a lightsaber, depending on your skill level. So maybe
ingenuity.
Maybe you can put force power, imbue it in the lightsaber, and
I definitely, my first guardian in the Zepho Temple, I definitely killed through a door.
Did
I tell you guys that already?
You told me about it. Hilarious. You should tell that story again.
Yeah. So like, maybe I haven't told Brad yet. Yeah. So there's this big, it's a temple, and there's like a one-way door. You're supposed to go around and go through some puzzles, and you meet your first guardian, you kill him, and then you open the door. It's like, so it leads you back to where you are. I didn't know that. I was just trying to open the door with my lightsaber because it was early game. I didn't know what I could do. And so I swung at the door, and a health bar appeared.
Does this door have a health bar?
I was like, no kidding. So I just kept hitting it, and the whatever it wasn't moving. And eventually, the health bar disappeared. I heard a loud clanging sound, and I'm like, I think that was like a boss I just killed. And sure enough, I got to that door later after I fought some other guardians, and there was nothing there. He doesn't respawn.
You're like,
what is hitting me?
So I don't know if y'all. Speaking of the guardians. You know how like in some games, like especially with robots like that, like if they're like some of them standing around but they're not active, there'll be like one hidden that is active that'll like come out like kind of as a like, oh, like do you know what I mean?
I mean, I wouldn't have expected that, but I can picture what you're saying. Sure.
Yeah, like say there's like people, like a whole bunch of like statues in front of a door, and like one of the statues animates and attacks you. Like, but not all.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
So there's a moment where I was like walking down a hallway, and there were some guardians that were like deactivated seemingly. And I ran up to a few of them, and I was like hitting them with my sword just to see if they do anything. Nothing happened. And then like I walked a little bit further down the hall. I ran into an enemy, like a rat or something. I killed it. And then like I just murdered something. I just force pushed one of the statues that were standing to my left, and it stumbled back, and I was like, excuse me? But it didn't move. It didn't like attack. And I was like,
I think I know which one that's in the water temple-ish one, right? The second one?
I think so. I can't remember exactly where it was, but it was just standing, and then I just started like wailing on it. It didn't really do anything, and I was like,
mine were bugging out too.
I was like, what's happening? Is this supposed to be a jump scare enemy, or am I just...
I feel like the issue was because there was one that was activated that I fought, and the rest of them weren't. But when you go into that second temple, it's the Guardians, but they have a color palette change. Like the ones in the first temple are like the navy blue, and then these have like green or something in them. And so, when you're fighting the Guardians... I don't remember
any color.
What'd you say?
I was going to say, I did not notice there was any palette
swaps. Because they were different.
They were like super subtle. Yeah, because... when you fight the first Guardians, it says, okay, use your force push,
but these ones you had to pull
their hearts out. Right. And so I noticed they were different color, but I didn't know that also meant that their physics changed. And so...
I didn't either.
I was trying to fight it. using the force push, and it doesn't work on them. And the only thing different about them is their color. They fight exactly the same.
I never noticed the color either.
I noticed the force push wasn't working. I thought I was going crazy. I probably took way more damage than I should have.
I thought I was going crazy too. I died in a fight because I was like, I'm going to get this mechanic to work. Because it only worked half of the time on the Guardians it was supposed to work on. For me, at least. I did not have any consistency with it.
The window and when they did their attacks was kind of weird. So it's like, I could feel that. Yeah, it
was the window and the distance. It was super jank.
And also on easy mode, those enemies are just stupid. Like they just attack less. Like there's a weird thing about easy mode is that a lot of the enemies are exactly the same to just do less damage, but like the bigger enemies attack less.
Oh,
like the frogs attack less.
They do more damage.
Yeah, the big swipey hands McGee guy on Dathomir. He attacked less, and then the Guardians, but everybody else was pretty much the same. It was strange. It was just weird. So those fights were actually like super easy versus everything else. I did want to say one more thing before we kind of wrap up. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how Star Wars fans feel about this, but from my understanding, kyber crystals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kyber crystals are like the most they're like very
rare,
holy, like a sacrament almost, you know.
Oh yeah
in the Jedi world, and in
super valuable.
I don't know if in any game, any movie, we've ever been to a place where you could get a kyber crystal. Only in, I think, what's that called? The movie we were just talking about.
Rogue One?
Rogue One. Are they at a place where I think there's kyber crystals? When they meet Donnie Yen and the other characters who are like the part.
I confess, I do not remember any of the plot from Rogue One. I just remember Vader at the end.
They go to the planet where they're like at when they meet
Ilum,
I think, during that movie. Because I recall them talking about kyber crystals. But once again, they just kind of talked about it, right? Like
the only place I've ever seen kyber crystals on screen is in the Clone Wars.
I think the Clone Wars, and was that with Ahsoka?
Ahsoka brings a group of Padawans, to the Jedi Temple with Yoda, and they go on their missions to find their kyber crystals, and you learn a little bit about the lore and stuff. But that's like the only place I've seen it in depth like that.
Yeah, and they're very, very like even in everything I know, it's just like very like, hey, this place, it chooses you. Nobody really knows where to go. Like only certain people. It's like very like, but for some reason, it felt very like, I don't know, disrespectful.
Straightforward.
Yeah, like I was like, yo, for this thing to be like something that's very like it felt sacrilegious almost in a Jedi world sense.
I think it was because of how casual Cal was about it.
Yeah.
Like he was just like, oh, my lightsaber is broke. I just need to go get another one. And so he just casually goes and then finds one immediately. But he still tries to make it super like, oh, it's calling out to me type of thing. But it's like, no, you're not going on a journey. Like you broke your last one.
It was like really obvious what direction to go in immediately because there was a bright shining light.
It was like a trip to the store for him.
Yeah, you just had to.
Dang.
and then there's troopers like there, and like I was like, this feels really like they're doing. I don't know. I got to do some research, but it feels like wrong. Like this doesn't seem like.
Yeah, the Empire being there really hurt my feelings.
Yeah, I was like, this should be like the kind of place where like Luke Skywalker was when he was hiding. Yeah. Like you can't find it. Like nobody knows where it is.
Yeah.
You know, I honestly thought when the lightsaber broke, I said, oh, that's it. Like he's going to have to find another one. Or I thought what's her name was going to give him her lightsaber.
But it was broken already. Because she sold her crystal. That also hurt my feelings.
Oh, she did?
I don't know.
That's why he wasn't using her saber. If you read the little profile thing, it's like, he's using the parts from her saber, but it doesn't have a crystal. That's why it needs a crystal.
Oh, I didn't. Once again,
missed that. Why didn't they just say that?
Mm-hmm. This is terrible storytelling and prop.
Because it would be. I mean, no. So that's actually something I appreciate. Is the story itself just has the minimum that you need to understand what's going on.
I don't think I had enough.
But then if you want to dig deeper, you can.
I was genuinely confused about everything they were doing. Like, I didn't know why they were going to a certain planet. Oh, maybe Kashyyyk I kind of got, because I knew that that's where they were going to find a Wookiee or whatever. Tarful. But, like, everything else felt very, like, I don't know. I was just like, I'm just doing whatever you tell me to do. It didn't feel like there was a lot. I don't know. That's where maybe the gaps were filled in with the text, you know?
Maybe. Yeah, I'm always the guy who's reading stuff.
Yeah, so and I just hated the game so much. I just want to get out of there. Sorry, what were you going to say, Kyle?
To me, it felt like if you're going to show on screen, you know, her handing him her lightsaber, I feel like that's enough to say. Maybe she should say out loud, or somebody should mention, you know, why he's not going to use it. That would have been a good point. Because it's like because if you're given an item in a game and then you don't use it, that feels really dissonant to me. Like it needs to be, and to have to go and read why it feels, I don't know, like not the right approach.
I just genuinely was confused why this was happening. I genuinely was like, I don't know what's going on. Like this, like
well, I don't blame you, Brad. You can't read. What else are you gonna do?
Thank you. So I need somebody.
Now
to
everyone
say it
knows.
Now they know the truth. No, I mean, honestly, like, I think, once again, I'm a person who knows Star Wars pretty well. I'm not a super fanatic, but I have a good understanding. And for me to be like, what is happening? Like, why? Like, like you said, Kyle, she could have simply said, I made some bad decisions in the past and sold my kyber crystal. I still regret that moment. You know what I'm saying? Like, simple context.
Simple.
Cool. Not...
Simple and clean is the way that Brad wants to
feel.
Man,
if they make a Star Wars game where you can move around like Sora, I'm in.
If you can summon a giant Disney ride,
I just want Goofy
Star Wars
to
now.
be there. That's it. That's all.
Goofy with a lightsaber.
With his lightsaber.
He's immediately gonna go to the Sith.
Oops.
Use the Force, Luke.
Oops, I killed the little ones on accident. The younglings.
Oh, God.
Goofy is Darth Vader.
Catch. And he throws the lightsaber at it, and you're...
Oh, no.
I think I messed up, you guys. Yuck.
Guys, we gotta pack it in. We could talk about Star Wars in another hour.
So, I mean,
I have a final thought, too.
Yeah, go ahead. Everybody throw your final thought out there. Go ahead, Kyle. Go ahead, Steve. No.
So from what I understand, there are different ways to get the double-sided lightsaber.
Really?
Because I got mine differently than yours. Than you go.
Right. So I'm curious about how you guys got yours. And if...
I got mine on Dathomir.
Okay.
Yeah, I got mine on Dathomir before I went to the Zephyr homeworld. So I had it like right after Bogano. Like probably within the first 3 hours of gameplay.
I guess that's one upside to going to Dathomir early. I forgot you do have the ability to get the double lightsaber really early in the game if you want.
Yeah.
So I got it early too, but I actually got it on Bogano. Because you can find, what's his name, Jakil, the guy who BD1's old master. You can find
Enzo Cordova?
Benzo.
Cordova.
Where did I get that name from? Cordova, yeah. You can find his lightsaber.
What?
And then you can go to one of the workshops on Bogano and make the double-sided lightsaber. I completely found it by random. Yeah.
Speaking of finding things by random, how many stims did you guys end the game with?
5, 7?
6 or 7? 5, 6, 7?
Bro, I had 2 stims.
No!
Are you kidding?
For most of the game.
Are you kidding?
I found 2 more on Bogano, like right at the end. Like I was exploring, and I'm like, oh, a 3rd stim, cool. And then I found a 4th one like immediately. I'm like, what's going on?
Wow.
The fact that you say 7 stims makes me want to jump out my window right now.
I'm so sorry,
I had 2 stims for all of the boss fights except Trilla.
I had 5 when I left Zaffo.
Yeah, I had
4 at least.
4. I had 4 when I left. No, when I left.
Oh my god.
Bogano, I had at least 3. And then
I mean, it's one thing. I didn't explore a ton. I was like, all right, let me do a little exploration, and I'll do a little bit of whatever story. But I was like,
a lot of
I guess I'm just gonna have 2 stims forever because they never like. I just by pure bad luck. If I had found a single extra stem anywhere in the game, I would have been like, okay, they're here somewhere. Let me look for them. I just didn't think they were there.
That's funny.
I would say most of them I found from backtracking after getting a new ability.
All right.
Yeah. I think most I just found kind of randomly as I just wandered around, being lost.
I
hate this.
Casually, you know.
I almost texted you guys, like, did you guys know there's extra stems? Like, literally, you guys both beat the game before I got two more stems.
So I just want to say one really quick thing on talking about all this stuff, the stems, is that one thing that I did dislike about the game is that, like, I didn't feel very rewarded for, like, some of the things that I did. I don't care about another sheath or color or something like that.
I thought it was all just garbage.
Yeah, I honestly stopped even paying attention to the stuff that I got if it wasn't a stem, because I knew it was just some cosmetic. So
the cosmetics were not, very appealing. Everything looked dirty, and the colors were only some of them were even nice. The rest of them were just like fan service and callbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
and you barely got to enjoy them even when you did put them on, because a lot of the areas were dark. So I had Cal running around in bright orange the whole time.
I had him in the poncho, like his second poncho he got, and I never changed it. I was like, okay.
I had him in a cool poncho.
I tried to make him look stupid.
Yeah.
All right, Steve, last thoughts?
That was my final thought. There are more stems in the game. If you're not a complete, joker of bad luck, you might grab one before you get to the end of the game.
My final thought is, what in the world was that scene with the guitar on the ship with Cal or whatever? He pulls out the guitar.
Oh, he was playing like a quattro.
Yeah, it just kind of felt really random, and
I totally forgot about that.
And I feel like it just felt like no mention of it. It just came out of nowhere. I feel like that was my whole experience with this game. What is happening? Why is this happening? Where am I going? Who is this? Why is this guy homeless with no shirt? Like, it was just...
What I want to know is, why didn't this man play the guitar when your girl Marion got on the ship? Like, hey girl, let me sing you some
serenade.
Songs of the Force. Let me tell you about the light side, baby.
Yeah. And also, like, for me, the stupid, like, grow tree thing.
That was random.
Yeah.
I was like, what is...
Collectibles.
Yeah.
Maybe you get something if you grow all the seeds.
No, what, another lightsaber sheath?
Another stem?
Like
a stem, maybe?
No, they wouldn't reward you like that. Like, they want you to find those stems in stupid ways. And that's how I felt about it. I was like, all this stuff feels meaningless to me. Like,
you probably get an achievement on the PlayStation.
Yeah, like, I don't, like, nothing felt like, everything felt random or stupid or useless. And that's how I felt about this whole game. Like, I don't really understand this existence. I feel like something you noted earlier, Kyle, is that I feel that this game wasn't finished. Because
it's undercooked, man.
Because there was a game that I think it was called like Jedi 5432 or something. I can't remember what it was. It was like a game in progress that never got finished. And
Jedi 2077.
Oh my lord.
And I feel that there's this thing with Star Wars games that, like, you can't sit on them too long. And I felt that they had to get it out. And I think they had a better vision. I think the game was going to feel better. And so I have a little bit of hope for, what's it called? Survivor. The next game.
The sequel?
Yeah, Jedi Survivor, I think it's called.
My actual final thoughts are that I'm still kind of excited for the second game, because I think all the issues I have with this game could be fixed.
Yeah, you have to play it.
I honestly, like, how I feel about it is I'm definitely not going to play it unless it's y'all, or I see some gameplay that shows me a lot of the stuff that I hated is fixed. I mean, I have a feeling the core of the game is going to be the same. The story is probably going to be better.
We can get it on sale.
Yeah. I still don't want to... I didn't want to play this game. I'm telling you. Once I got to that frog game, like, dude, in the very, like, first hour, I would have never played the game again if it wasn't for y'all.
That's where I quit the first time. Yeah.
So, yep, it would have been the same spot. That would have been the story of Jedi Fallen Order. So.
I would have liked the game better if I had more stems.
You did it to yourself.
If you gave me 10
I can't believe
hilarious.
Yeah, no one can say I played the game on easy
You
mode.
really
I played it on
double hard mode.
That's what I'm saying. You're like a speedrunner at this point. Like any percent, like just do it.
Yeah.
Like
I'm proud
Yeah,
now.
about that life.
So yeah, okay. So this was a long, hefty, deep conversation.
Yeah, we gotta quit.
We definitely gotta wrap it up. For anybody who's listened, you probably feel that we have differing opinions, but I don't know if I would personally tell you not to play this game, but I would.
Would you not?
Even though I hated it personally, because I think it's a personal opinion of how much I hate it, but I do think that at the end of the day, it's cool to see a Star Wars game. I love the universe. I just wish it personally had been done better. So hey, listen to our thoughts. Some of us are on the higher side, some of us on the lower sides. Make your own opinion. Check it out if you would like to. I'm just going to say the game is trash personally. But yeah, so thank you so much for listening to our conversation about Star Wars TM Jedi Fallen Order. We did it for y'all. This was definitely something I don't know if we would have played if we hadn't promised it to y'all. So we're happy that we were able to do it for you. So I want to thank the brothers for always being down for the cause, of course. Thank you, Kyle, for being here today and sharing your thoughts. Thank you, sir.
Always a pleasure. That. And when I got my Kyber crystal, I had a bright pink lightsaber for the rest of the game.
Represent. And of course, thank you, Mr. Steve, Padawan Steve. Thank you for sharing your thoughts today.
I deserve that. Yeah, thanks for having me, as usual. I went yellow because no one ever has a yellow saber.
Yes.
It was pretty awful looking, but there you have it.
And your boy, Bradston, a.k.a. the truest youngling. I had a purple.
Rapper name.
The truest youngling.
Truest youngling.
I had a purple lightsaber. Gotta represent for that royalty. You know what I'm saying? Windu all day, baby. Samuel L. Jackson. Mace Windu playing as Samuel L. Jackson. I had to represent. So, but no, honestly, thank you so much for listening. If you've gotten this far, you are a true fan. You are a true family. Thank you for being a part of the Super Agile Nation. We love you. We're so thankful for every listener, for every opinion, every comment, every like. Thank you so much. As always, you can find us on Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, in your mama's house. We're everywhere.
In your mailbox.
We are everywhere. So thank you so much for checking us out. Thank you for being great fans. And until next time, y'all take it easy. Peace. May the Force be with you.